Hello, everybody. We are live. This is the All Elite Roundtable. We have a huge group of people with us today, and we're going to let them introduce themselves.
Well, give me 1 second. I'm going to get everybody's mics muted, and we'll go down the line. You can just unmute them as it goes, so it'll minimize feedback.
All right.
Doing my Bill and Ted thing right now. Go ahead, Jake. Take it away.
All right. So we're going to start off with Sammy.
All right. My name is Sammy. Chicago born, Dallas, Texas. Well, current residency now. So I'm the youngest out in the group. All right. So I've been on Twitter for I don't know. Has it been 6 years now? So probably 6 years. All right. Been a fan for 7 years. And specifically, I only try to tweet AEW New Japan as much as I can. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. We're going to go next down the line to Todd.
Yes, it is I! Yes, it is I, Todd Black. You might remember me from previous beat-em-up sessions. I am a wrestling fan of over 20 years now, give or take. Love AEW. I still watch WWE. I watch Impact again, and New Japan when I can. It's always good to be amongst great wrestling people like you all, and I've been looking forward to this all week. So let's have a fun show, everybody.
All right. Next up, we have Caro.
Hello, everyone. I'm Caro, and I mostly cover AEW, though I also watch WWE, New Japan, Impact, and basically whatever wrestling that I can get my hands on. I've been watching pro wrestling for over 15 years, and you might have seen me in a few bits of WrestleJoy and on Teddy Turnbuckle's channel. And I also have a YouTube channel of my own. It's just really fun to talk about wrestling, and that's why I'm here today. So yeah, it's gonna be great. Looking forward to it. And Daryl says hi.
Hello, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
Next up, we have JR.
Hello, everybody. My name is JR. I am the professor and wrestling aficionado. A little bit about me. I am a full-time educator. I work at a university. I'm a going on 3-decade wrestling fan. I watch everything from WWE, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact. I don't care if that's 30 people in a barn or 80,000 people in MetLife Stadium. If it's wrestling, I'll watch it.
Nice.
Awesome. And next we have Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben Miller. I'm not going to tell you how long I've been a wrestling fan because I'm really old. But a long time, let's just say it that way. I'm also the editor-in-chief at Gorilla Publishing. I watch a lot of wrestling. I watch AEW and WWE sometimes.
Roman.
Roman Reigns, the worst wrestler ever.
Oh, you're getting muted for that.
The gobbledygooker. Roman Reigns.
All right. Yeah. Next, we have Brainy Swole.
Hi, I am Beth. But yes, I would like to be known as Brainy Swole. I am an elite librarian. I am an actual librarian in South Carolina. I've been watching wrestling, mostly WWE, on and off for most of my life. I love AEW a lot. I think it's definitely a work in progress, but it's a really good product. I just literally got introduced to Impact about a month ago. Absolutely love it. One of the things that I'm most passionate about in wrestling is women's wrestling, because that's what brought me back from a long time of not watching, was seeing how far the women have come since the days of bra and panties matches and the like. So yeah, that's me.
Okay. And finally, we have All Elite Kyle.
Hey everybody, I'm Kyle. I'm an obvious AEW fan. Also like New Japan, GCW, and quite a few independents. I can't say I've been a fan all my life, because I had a little bit of about a 13-year gap where I didn't watch wrestling. But I got back into it about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm also a writer for WrestleJoy.com, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. So we decided to get everybody together. Everybody has really passionate and everybody got together because of AEW, and we're about to reach the 1-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. AEW as a company has already existed for a little bit over a year, and we're reaching their anniversary for All Out, which is debatably their WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad about it, but as you guys probably know, we've all had multiple conversations on different channels, different chats, kind of about the same thing, about the booking, the AEW Women's Division, where they're going, what haven't they done, what we hope to see from them coming up to a year mark, and yeah, everything in between, from diversity to the bar that they set. So this is going to be, safe zone. We can just talk about all of it. Everybody has a chance to say what they need to say. You can rebuttal things, but we have a timer, so it's going to be some good stuff. We have all this all set up for everybody. But yeah, we can go ahead and do the first topic if you want to.
All right, so we're gonna try to unmute everybody, and hopefully there won't be any feedback. If there is, then we'll go back to muting, because we want this to be a conversation, but also be respectful of everybody's time.
Or Daryl will throw a time bomb at you.
He doesn't have one right now, does he?
All right.
That's what you think.
Kyle.
That's what you think.
Man.
He's a passive cat.
He's an awesome cat.
Mhm.
All right, you want to start with booking?
Yep, the first topic is going to be AEW booking. I don't know if you want to introduce a little bit more why we're going to booking, Maria.
So you guys probably have known from this different fans, people that are more WWE fans that are the opposite of what people think AEW should be and things like that. So everybody's heard of the Elite Factor, which is basically anybody that's in the Elite puts themselves over the talent and so forth. Do you guys believe this is an issue in the company? Do you guys believe that right now there's like ex-WWE stars that are being more pushed than you would say the actual main roster that they established AEW on? There's a lot of back and forth to talk on that, especially when you have the Elite is always kind of put together with somebody that's an ex-WWE star, and that's kind of like where it's been fizzling. We have like Moxley, we have Brody, we have things like that. We have Matt Cardona. So we're seeing it little by little trickle down, and you hear the rumors of other people that might come in. So with that being said, do we want to go down the line, or do you want to just do it that way?
I like the line. That's nice and simple. Go down the line.
Yeah. So just remember, be cautious of your time. Try to limit it down to 3 to 5 minutes if you can. But yeah, go ahead, Sammy. How do you feel about the Elite Factor, the booking, and everything that's going so far with AEW?
As for the booking, all right. So how far AEW's come. So in year one, all right, we didn't know what the Elite Factor was, because obviously the Elite has done a very good job putting over other people who has been signed to AEW. And as we approach year two, we have more ex-WWE guys coming into the company. And this is something that has concerned a lot of people, well, especially AEW fans on Twitter, because, of course, we've seen how much ex-WWE talent came into TNA, and that's what ultimately led to their downfall. And as for my opinion, I don't think that many of the ex-WWE guys should be pushed right away, because, of course, we have Matt Cardona and we have Matt Hardy, Brody Lee. And let me tell you this. For example, Matt Cardona. All right, we saw Cardona show up to help Cody, like on an episode of AEW Dynamite. And to me, like, this is when Cardona was in WWE. Some of the fans they may or may not know who he is. So you're going to want to like build him up more, like at least like give him a vignette or have him cut a promo just to remind everybody who he is. And I even said this myself, Cardona, and this might've been career wise. I would have, like, if I was Cardona, I would have went to Impact first just to, remind everybody who I am and like what I do and why I deserve this. So then AEW comes. So everybody knows who I am, and I'll be able to show everybody like what I can do. So I know I might start sounding redundant here, but to the point, as for the ex-WWE people, I don't think they should sign too many of those people, because obviously like people will start to know AEW as WWE 2.0, and I wouldn't even try to bring in as much WWE people as possible. Like I said before, this is what led to the downfall of TNA. And as for the Elite Factor, giving the Elite too much creative control, like, of course, we saw this with the NWO in WCW. That's what led to their downfall, because, of course, it was all Hogan, Nash, Hall, Flair, and Bischoff, all the creative control they had, which led to some pretty bad pay-per-views. But as for the Elite Factor, they've done a pretty good job at putting over the people we know, like, have been signed to AEW. So, and I think that's going to continue for years to come. So they've been doing a wonderful job at that.
All right, Todd, do you have anything to
I
add
do.
to that? Or?
Here's how I view it. Is there an elite factor? I'm going to say yes, but it's not as bad as NWO. And Sammy made some excellent references. I totally agree with, especially with the TNA one. But the way I see it is there is an elite factor if you look at who has won titles and who hasn't. Because who was the first tag team champions? SCU, who are, wait for it, great friends with the Elite via their Ring of Honor days and beyond. And then who was Hangman fought for the AEW World Title first, which was fine because he lost. But then who was the second tag team champions? Kenny and Hangman, even though they weren't really a tag team, they'd only tag teamed a few times before then. Who was the first women's champion? Riho, who was good friends with, wait for it, Kenny Omega. And now we have a potential FTR winning the tag team titles, and they have, of course, that weird relationship with the Bucks, and so it's kind of like an elite factor and friends, which is a problem because it's not the best look when it's clear it's like, oh yeah, they're the friends of the Elite, so they're going to get the titles. I really felt, and I was talking about this with Maria and Caro, that Dark Order should have won the tag team titles in their last title match, because then we had the Dark Order tag titles and the TNT titles, and now they're a really dominant faction, which brings us to the WWE talent. There was no way that they can't get WWE talent. That was inevitable, especially with what AEW represents. That's why Matt Hardy came there. That's why Jericho came there. That's why Moxley came there, and we all understood that. Two of the two main champions have been ex-WWE talent, and now we have Brody as the TNT champion. So that's three major champions, all being from the former company, versus the homegrown talent. Now I don't know if I won't say Scorpio Sky should have won the TNT title. He was deserving. I think that would have been a great move, but given how they were doing Dark Order, I understood why they did that. But you could also see that they are putting a smaller focus on the WWE guys and not focusing too much on their small talent at times. All Out is a great example of this. Why aren't we getting Darby versus Ricky at All Out? Like, we all remember Darby versus Sammy. That was a great match at Revolution. They should have Darby versus Ricky at All Out, but no, they're going to be in the Battle Royal. Do they need to be in the Battle Royal? No, because Darby's already had two title matches, and Ricky would never win right now. So put them at All Out, put some other guys in the Battle Royale, and it'd be better. So to wrap this up, there is some issues, at least I am seeing, and I do see trends that others have seen. It is not as bad as what TNA and what NWO, WCW did, but there are legitimate concerns.
Yeah, no. Caro, am I pronouncing your
It's
name right?
Caro.
Caro?
Caro.
Okay,
Whatever
sorry.
you want. It's
Think of
fine.
it like Carolina.
Yeah, there we go.
Carolina,
I'm so-
actually, but
I apologize for that, but yeah, Caro?
Go ahead.
yeah. So Todd and Sammy brought up excellent points. So there seems to be a sense of nepotism going on, in the sense that people who are in the Elite, or at least adjacent enough to the Elite, are getting title opportunities. And I also don't think that it's as bad as TNA or WCW, because they also had creative issues that didn't, it wasn't just the talent on the roster that was the issue. It was creative and everything else going on. And y'all know that. I'm not going to go into any more detail. But the way I see it, it is possible year 2 onwards that they could use the Elite effect for good. And what I mean by that is that when AEW was building their company, you have to pull in fans that maybe either lapsed from wrestling or had some familiarity with WWE. And a good example of that is Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was the first AEW World Champion. And I thought that was an excellent choice for your first champion. People know Chris Jericho. People maybe lapsed out from wrestling 20 years ago. They know who Chris Jericho is. And if we extend that definition to the rest of the roster, people know who Jon Moxley is, Matt Hardy. Like, if they hear names that are familiar, they're like, hey, I remember this guy from like years ago. Maybe I should tune into AEW. And that's how you can grab in fans. I know fans who started watching AEW because of Matt Hardy. And because of that, they started being interested in other roster members like Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, etc. And I think what I like to see U2 onwards is that the homegrown talent, like talent coming from the Indies and talent that don't come from WWE, start, developing their own star power. And I see the Elite and other like name recognizable quote unquote talent doing that. And I think like, yes, nepotism is bad, but it could be used for good to start building up some of the younger people on the roster, because there is a big future in this roster. We have MJF, we have Jungle Boy, we have Darby. There's so many talented names on that roster. And I think they can be elevated by the talent that have had experience in the roster for a few years now. So yeah.
Great points. Now we have the professor.
So I'll say one thing before to preface what my story is, and let me get my own timer going on. In 2020, because of the pandemic, I pretty much give wrestling a pass because it's kind of all hands on deck. So as we're going through this, it's about ratings, about entertainment, and putting on a show that people are going to like. With that said, as far as the actual booking, I think they're burning through a lot of their possible storylines because they're trying to hide the biggest storyline for fans. We're waiting for them, I should say. So, for example, Young Bucks versus FTR. This is a match that everybody's been wanting for years. And they're teasing it, but it's something that they really don't want to give us until fans come back, capacity crowd, whether it's in the Chicago or Vegas, as an example. So, but because of that, we've been seeing these weird matches where, for example, FTR versus Private Party versus Lucha Bros, you're burning through these possible storylines. I just definitely want to say as far as the booking part. As far as the elite factor, I mean, let's just be real. I don't think if any of these guys were not friends of the elite, they wouldn't, and gals, they wouldn't be signed to AEW because they are all vice presidents of All Elite Wrestling. So who are you going to go to? Who do you want in your foxhole with you? You want people who are going to be your friends and people who are going to sit there and go to battle for you. The last thing I will say as far, because there's one thing that we haven't got talked about was tag team division taken away from singles run. We've seen a lot of multi-man tag team matches on AEW Dynamite that for the life of me, I just don't know why. And it's not even just tag matches. It's 8-man tag matches, 10-man tag matches. And it's getting to the point where it's almost like WrestleMania where we need to get everybody on the card. Because they have, I think last time I checked, about 60 men on the, not including women, 60 men on the roster. And with the exception of Pac, a lot of them are now readily available for them to use. And this doesn't include the talent, the indie talent they use on AEW Dark. So I definitely do think that tag matches in general is taken away from possible singles run, especially where as we got announced for AEW All Out, we're seeing Scorpio Sky, Matt Cardona, and National Nightmares versus members of the Dark Order. It's like, whoa, why is this match being put together? Like, why is Scorpio Sky in here? He has never been essentially a friend of Cody, not to my knowledge. So why don't we give him a singles match to spotlight him? So I'll end it there.
Okay. So next week we're gonna go with Ben.
Of course, the train's going by right now. So one thing I will say is there is an elite factor, but it's a tough line tightrope to walk because you can't tell me that Cody and Kenny aren't two of the best workers in the business today. They definitely are two of the best in America. You could get some of the New Japan guys out.
Is this Dominic Express trying to ruin our past? I'm just saying.
Go away, train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as I was saying,
Are we good?
as I was saying, are we good now?
Go all right, train. All right, go,
All right.
Ben.
All right. So as I was saying, like they're two, like that's what's different between the WCW and the Impact stuff. They were putting older stars that weren't at the top of their game up at the top level, where like Kenny Omega, hands down one of the best in-ring workers in the business. You can't not push him. You can't not push Cody. Moxley's one of the best characters right now in the business. You can't not push those guys. As far as the WWE guys, other than Moxley, you look at Jericho. I think Jericho's putting over Orange Cassidy. They're using their clout to put over the other guys. Hardy is using what he's doing to put over Sammy. Like, I think that feud is pretty well done, and I think he's willing to Hardy understands his role in the company is now to put over some of the younger guys. So using them to do that, I think, is smart. I understand like some of the problems with like, yeah, these guys are all friends, but then at the same time, it's what the internet wants. Doesn't the internet really want Young Bucks versus FTR for the title? You know what I mean? It's a tough line for them to cross, because at some point you have to convince the internet and fans that they want something different, that they want this new star. And they have done that with like MJF, who's the best heel in wrestling right now. And there's some other guys, with Darby, that they're starting to see. You're starting to see some flashes of that, but they can't just ignore the fact that they've got some of the best wrestlers that just happen to also be execs in the company.
No, great points. Yep. So we'll go with Brainy Swell now.
Okay. I've been listening to all these really great takes, and I've been trying to formulate, what can I contribute to this. I totally get. I'm not totally aware of the history of TNA, but I have heard of how former WWE stars went down there, and too many went down and ruining the product. I don't think that's happened yet. Moxley's been awesome. Matt Hardy is always entertaining. Jericho is the crown. I think he is the crown jewel. He was the biggest sign from the male roster. That's why he was basically the first. That's why he was the headliner. But when I think about people, let's take Brody Lee. Yes, he's an ex-WWE guy. He was, a member of the Wyatt family. He was a Bludgeon brother and helped tag championships for a little bit. But what did he really accomplish there? I look at Brody Lee right now and what he's doing with this Dark Order, and I don't see a brother. I don't see, the cult member has now become the cult leader, and he's making it work. Again, this Dark Order gimmick that they have to restart 2 and 3 times to finally get it right, and now it's finally, he's got the TNT Championship. He basically murdered Cody on live television. You can't make a bigger statement than that. And so when I look at him, I don't see an guy, not in the sense of, Moxley or Chris Jericho, who had already had, some level of success in the previous company. I see someone who was not properly used full potential in WWE and who is coming into his own here. And I think Matt Cardona could be another, because what has Ryder done in the last couple of years besides sit in catering? Honestly, maybe he wrestled on main every once in a while. So I think that for quote unquote low hanging fruit like Harper and Zack Ryder come into another company. Matt Cardona comes in jacked like he did. I almost didn't even recognize him. I didn't even know. Oh my! I did, and the thing that popped into my mind was, oh, that's Zack Ryder. My first reaction was, who is this? Jacked up monster. So I think for some guys and some girls in the future, AEW can be a place where if they're not getting used to their full potential, they can reinvent themselves and have the kind of success that they deserve.
One small correction: Dark Order, not a cult. All right, Mr. Brody Lee said that. Not a cult. Do not say that word. Do not waste his time. That's all.
Mr. Brody, Please don't yell at me.
He's gonna hit you with papers. You know this.
Don't all cults say they're not a cult?
What's your point?
Evil Uno will be there.
That is true. That is true.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
want to drink Kool-Aid.
All right,
Did they serve Kool-Aid at Chili's? I just
No,
wanna
there isn't. I don't think. You know, I
JR's
wonder-
about to throw some paper at Todd. All right, so
All right, Kyle, go ahead.
Everybody pretty much like hit every point. Everything I wanted to say, everybody else already pretty much covered. The only thing I'd probably really add is that like everybody that keeps saying that everybody always keeps saying people they keep bringing in ex WWE people, but like all of these people that they brought in, with like maybe the exception of Matt Hardy because he was first in WWE, but they brought him in as broken Matt Hardy, which he made that gimmick in Impact. All of these people like pretty much made their name on the independent. Like John Moxley is not Dean Ambrose at all, and the Brody Lee that we're seeing now is not Luke Harper. These are all people who made their names on the independents, and they're getting to be themselves again. So I don't really see a majority of these people as ex WWE people, but I do believe that there's a little bit of an elite factor with what y'all been saying about how it seems like the elite and their friends are getting all the championships, but at the same time I see it as maybe they're trying to go ahead and get their title runs in because let's face it, we all knew that they were going to be champions at some point. Maybe they're going to get their titles in their championships run in at first, so that they can go ahead and knock that out of the way and give everybody else the spotlight.
no, yeah, that's a good point. So I'm gonna just say one thing about that too, and then I don't know if Maria wants to say something, and then you guys could either rebuttal or add to it.
Fine.
I see that there is a sort of an elite factor, and I think we all pretty much acknowledge that. Just because there are very talented wrestlers that don't get a chance as much as the people that are close to the elite, which is the South California group, SCU, the core of the elite, and then some of the some of the core of the elite, like Cody and them, and then some of Cody's WWE friends got a little bit of push. But I feel like it hurts people like the Lucha Brothers. It hurts people like Butcher and the Blade, Kip Sabian, like even Luchasaurus, who was super over, but then they keep putting him in these 6-man tag matches where Marco Stunt has to become some kind of a tag thing, or like the focal point. They don't really give him a point where Luchasaurus could look like a real threat or a real challenge for a belt. So I feel like, in a way, at points, like the only people that do get the real big pushes have to be some kind of friends to the elite. I mean, if you look at the toy line and the toys that have been announced, they're usually really close to the elite. It's not anybody that's not close to the elite. So that's what I have to say about that.
My thoughts are actually on the demographics. As somebody who was raised by a man who loves wrestling and now is like 72 years old, the only reason why he tunes into AEW, and this is his words, for Dean Ambrose, for the guy from the Wyatt family. Oh my God, did you see Woo 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 is in AEW now? This is legitimately the issue, because this is a draw for people who are ex-WWE fans. And like, this is my dad, and this is some of the kids that I know that are like in their younger 20s at the library that grew up playing WWE. They know of AEW now, but they base them still off the names and characters that they were in that promotion. So when you're doing things like that, it plays on the fact that they're trying to get a demographic still, that, you know, they're really catering to those people. If things start to progress the way they wanted to, and say things not, I don't want to say fall flat, but do they have to get another ex-WWE? Do they have to get another draw? They brought in Brian Cage. My dad knew who he was from Impact because he's huge. You know, people are hinting that, what's his name? The other guy from the Wyatt family. There's hints to him maybe coming. You know, like there's all these rumors, and it's once again another draw. It's a WWE guy. People talk about Jeff Hardy. Is Jeff Hardy going to stick around for the end of his career, or will he reunite with Matt Hardy? But those are reasons why my dad tunes in, and he's that demographic that they always miss. And literally, like I said, his words, woo woo woo's there. He doesn't even know his damn name. Okay. Doesn't know his name. But he goes like, that guy from the Wyatts, he's like a huge dude now. I didn't know he could wrestle like that. Yeah. Dude could wrestle, you know? So I'm just worried about that. I'm worried when they do these bridges, because they booked themselves into corners. They didn't know what to do with Brian Cage at a point. They didn't know what they were going to do with Lance Archer at a point. They had these really big talents. And like I was telling Jack, and I don't know if you guys saw in some of our last podcasts, I never seen Brian Cage or Lance Archer wrestle live. And what I saw live is nothing that they do on AEW. It's 10% of what they do. So it's doing a disservice to those two gentlemen just to begin with. And that's not even talking about the rest of the roster. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. And the tag team, I don't know what JR was saying. There's just pointless storylines for some of these tag teams. That's how I feel about that.
The time management is horrible at times. Like if you look at last time's Dynamite, we had a 30-minute gauntlet match, which was awesome. I'm not going to lie. That was a great gauntlet match. And I like how they set it up all out. But then the main event is a tables match in a feud that they've built up. It's less than 10 minutes, and we had a commercial break. And, and 1 minute of Orange Cassidy running and beating up Jericho, which is always classic. But like this is a tables match. You said it's the first tables match in less than 10 minutes. Really?
Yes.
Listen, I feel like that was to protect Matt Hardy. I don't know Matt Hardy can go anymore. Like he was supposed to medically retire, and so he's been doing a lot of tag matches. Can he do a singles match that goes 20 minutes? Especially a tables match? I don't know.
It's been confirmed that the main event was cut short because other segments, it was supposed to be longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Time management.
Whoa.
And then me and JR were talking about how we thought it'd be over, but it ain't over. Clearly on Twitter, they're about to go again. It ain't over.
Yeah.
Both of them said that.
Well, can I?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Can I quickly just chime in about the term ex-WWE in general? Because I have really mixed feelings about it. I think it can be used like it's a good way to use it to an extent. I don't like it being used, and I think it's pretty cookie cutter when it's used in a derogatory sense, where people are like, "Oh, well, AEW is just made up of ex-WWE people when they haven't seen AEW. Why aren't we using that term for like, I don't know." By that logic, WWE could be made of like, oh, ex-Ring of Honor stars, ex-New Japan stars, ex this, ex that, and I never really understood that. And if we even go back to like 20 years ago with the Monday Night Wars, there were similar complaints being thrown at WWF, where a lot of people were like, hey, look at these ex-WCW stars, you know? And it's just, I have very mixed feelings about it. I don't hate it entirely, but it's just like, to an extent, I think it's like,
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you can really call Jericho an ex-WWE star. He's an ex-WCW, Yeah, I mean, he's wrestled literally for every company and held the belt in every company. So like you can't, I don't think really he can be called that. I guess you can say Ryder and
Hardy
were but Hardy like the professor said, his thing was built in Impact.
right.
The Broken Matt Hardy was built in Impact, and Ryder was like fired from the WWE and built his thing online. So,
see, I'll disagree a little bit with you, Ben, on that Jericho one. And the only reason why is because Jericho obviously was big he was good in ECW. He was, good in WCW, but he didn't become a star until WWE. So that's why, he became the world champion. They put him. It's the same thing like Rey Mysterio. He got put on that platform because of WWE being a world champion. Without WWE, he would have been probably I don't want to say equivalent to anybody else, but he'd been more mid-tier, not main event level. But also at the same time, I don't think AEW has a lot of ex-WWE guys though, period. Besides Matt Cardona and Brody Lee and Matt Hardy, I don't see AEW stacked with them.
No.
The one thing I will say is last year, AEW, between the beginning of Dynamite in October through pretty much until New Year's Eve, the Elite itself, they were beaten to powder. If you look at AEW All Out, only one member of the Elite won a match, and that was Cody over Shawn Spears. If you look at the Elite at Full Gear, the only one that won was, I believe, Hangman over Pac, if I'm not mistaken. Because Omega lost, the Young Bucks lost to Private Party, I believe.
It was Proud and Powerful.
Not Private Party, Pride and Powerful. And then that was it. And then Cody lost to Jericho. I think also some of the Elite fans, like I started getting turned off in AEW. Like I should have said, like, this is like, I want to see Cody, I want to see these guys do well, and they're putting everybody over. But then beginning in January, things got flipped over where then they started doing a little bit better. But then what happened is some of the guys that we start turning into that we like Lucha Bros, like Pride and Powerful, like Private Party, and other guys, they started either losing or taking a back seat. And so one of the biggest teams, the biggest teams that took a back seat was Pride and Powerful and Lucha Bros, who had the biggest momentum leaving Impact Wrestling. And if you look at the Lucha Bros record, they've only won one tag match. Rey Fenix, I think he's 4-2, but the majority of his matches were on Dark. And then he hasn't looked good. And a lot of people think Rey Fenix is the best luchador in the world right now. Yeah. And that he could be put in that platform to help AEW transcend to a bigger limit. And that's one of the biggest issues WWE has. So they haven't been able to get over Rey Mysterio and find a new luchador. So I will say that this year they need to, I know it's kind of all hands on deck and they're trying to, it just doesn't seem like we have a direction right now with AEW.
Yeah, we definitely don't. I want to go on with what Play With Feeling 24 said. I think that one, people are going to complain about the booking either way. Look at how they're complaining about Kenny Omega. They're saying, "Oh, Kenny Omega was so huge in New Japan, but he's so weak in AEW. He hasn't been put over. Like he should have either stood in New Japan or gone to WWE." But then you have Cody winning, and they're like, "Oh, look at Cody putting himself over, burying everybody." So it's like they're gonna find something to complain about them. And then to add to the ex-WWE guys, how come no one ever talks about the elephant in the room? WWE has a bunch of New Japan people. They have a bunch of Impact people. They have ROH people. But
that's what I was going to say is that as a librarian, and I know Beth could vouch for this, you don't say what you don't know. So when people see WWE, they just say, "Oh, they're ex-WWE stars." Well, they didn't just start there. They were given the platform in order for them to become something to spotlight, but they were already good on the indies. They just now have a platform. So wherever they go, they're going to take that talent. It's not just like WWE created that talent. And people need to start thinking about that.
Karrion Kross was huge in Impact, and now he's like one of the biggest NXT people.
Yeah.
But they're never going to say, "Oh, NXT has Impact, ex-Impact people."
Well, if you break it down, if you look at WWE's roster, who's their WWE champion right now? Drew McIntyre. So he was probably one guy that was kind of homegrown, but he went to the Indies and made a big name for himself in Scotland and ICW and Evolve. But then if you look at, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Adam Cole,
Daniel
Bryan, I'm going to start losing track. But all of the Undisputed Era, if you look at Andrade Cien Almas, wasn't he big in AAA, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, he was huge.
And then,
Ingobernables.
They also have, I'm blanking right now because I'm really focused on AEW roster. I haven't thought about WWE. But they do have a significant stars. I think besides Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, and Roman Reigns, pretty much most of their big name guys right now were started in Ring of Honor.
That comment right there.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, Derek.
Yeah. Triple tag team champions right there.
Well, I'm saying, had COVID not been a thing with Death Triangle, Lucha Bros would have been on fire.
On
Yeah.
fire.
Ah.
If they would have just highlighted the Kenny Omega and Phoenix match, like the first one,
Uh,
and that's what hurts me is because this is pre-COVID. They didn't talk
Yeah.
about those matches, but he came out with the belt. Well, why didn't you highlight the Phoenix match when he came out and fought against Sammy?
Yeah.
So if you're going to highlight that match, you should highlight the fact that Lucha Bros have the other belts. And that's a disservice because you're already making them sound like, okay, the Lucha Bros are good, but they're not good enough to be in the title picture, but yet they're the tag team champs in another organization that your Kenny Omega has a belt for.
I think
you want to use the elite effect for good, then use Kenny's popularity to get more people to watch AAA. Like, hey, do you like Kenny? He
Exactly.
defended the title here. Go watch AAA over here at this time,
There's not a lot of back scratching, and I don't know what's going on. We don't know. None of us are there, but I hope that back scratching gets a little more equally distributed between organizations.
Yeah.
But yeah, because every time they come out and they say Lucha Bros, and I'm like, there's nothing on the marquee saying that they're AAA champions, and it hurts my feelings every time it does that.
Well,
and
in
then
addition
going with
to
the
that,
go ahead.
I would just say like it kind of went down beginning at Full Gear for like Lucha Bros and Pride and Powerful. Pride and Powerful went over Young Bucks. Lucha Bros lost the triple threat match with Private Party and SCU, but that was kind of like the downhill from there for Lucha Bros.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think since we're hitting the Lucha Bros, we can move over to AEW Diversity. Todd, you want to finish up what you were going to say?
I was just going to say, like, don't forget there's one key factor that some people forget, and that's that you say, oh, we have all these ex-WWE guys. There's only one ex-WWE person in all the women's division, and that's Tay Conti, who just got there. And so we're not robbing everybody. If you look at the tag team division, Butcher and the Blade, Private Party, Lucha Bros, Hybrid 2, underused, and so many others. None of them were in WWE. So it's really just certain singles wrestlers who either weren't used correctly, wanted something fresh and new, and didn't want to be under certain creative control, and certain other things. So AEW is a lifeline, not the, hey, let's stick it to WWE. It's no, we want something better, so let's go there.
Yeah.
Also, last I checked, I could be wrong though. 20% or less are from, 20% or less of the roster has worked for WWE.
That actually sounds about right. I believe that. Mhm.
Yeah.
Has anybody mentioned that Cody Rhodes also an ex-WWE guy?
What was that? I'm sorry, Beth. Your mic went in and out.
She said Cody Rhodes is the next WWE guy.
No.
Yeah.
Stardust
the next
Yeah, Stardust.
Where's that Kenny Rob reaction
okay.
gift?
He gave himself.
I feel like Cody's another.
Oh, hold on, here you go.
There you go.
Oh, and one random fact before we move on: it was not the first tables match. Sammy and Matt, Nyla versus Kenna, end of January of this year.
Yeah.
It was.
Yep.
Oh wait, we're not on the AEW women's division.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the women's division.
Wasn't it on AEW Dark?
Yeah. it was on
Yes.
Dark.
Yeah, I was on Dark.
So
It's not. It was not the first tables.
No. All right, so we're on the topic of Lucha Bros and diversity. If you guys don't know, we've been a part of a lot of different other podcasts of diversity, and AEW Dark, the name itself became a thing where people associated with color of skin, where it's like, wow, the people that are more diverse and minorities always go on AEW Dark, where they're usually jobbed out to some of the main roster talent. That's literally a thing.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, most of the talent were, independent, which at this point, this is during pandemic. So in my beginning point of view was that, yeah, this is great because these are paychecks. They know what they're signing up for. They're going out there. They're getting self-exposure. They're being able to showcase their talent sometimes. Let's be fair, sometimes. But as it kept continuing, as the months went by, it became a little harder and harder to watch, mainly because if you're going to use these individuals, these independent talents, to put over your main roster and get them wins, because we do have a ranking system, we do have wins and losses in AEW. Do you feel like they could have done more of a service to these diverse people? Could they have done vignettes about where they come from, what promotions they worked in, a little bit about highlighting where they are, and maybe it wouldn't feel as bad to when people of color look at Dark and all you see is Hobbs and the Captain, and they're constantly losing over people. It got to a point where it was a trend, and then there was a point where even the AEW card, if you were always on one side of the card, that meant you lost. And then they finally started switching it up, and they finally started putting like the hybrid theory 2 versus the initiative. They started putting AEW people together. So it kind of gives you a suspension of disbelief, even though we all know the initiative is going to lose. But they tried a little bit more on that point. So going back full circle, do you think, even though they put themselves on a platform to say that they were going to raise the bar and be inclusive with diversity and make changes into the wrestling industry that is booked on TV that you can see, do you think they've fallen short thus far? You can include pandemic and everything too, having issues with it, but do you really feel like they actually pushed it out there? Look at champions, look at main bouts, look at the cards, look at main events. So just to throw that out there. You want to go, Sammy? Thoughts? Oh, wait, did your mic hold up? There you go. Sorry, Sammy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I actually never got a chance to comment on this, but I think they've done pretty well with diversity. For example, if you look at all the past champions they've had, like, for example, first tag team champions were SCU, and you have Riho as your first women's champion, and then you have Nyla Rose as your second women's champion. And I thought they did a pretty good job with the women's tournament, like the tag team tournament. They built up Ivelisse and Diamante as, like, you know, that dominant tag team and stuff like that. And I thought they did a good job at building up Tay Conti and Anna Jay and just people like that. So overall, I think they've done well with diversity, and I think they really pushed it out there. And like, it's it's just my opinion. Like, I mean, it's kind of, I know some people are kind of like in between, but to me, I think they've done well at it. But I mean, it's hard, you know, like you said, Maria, you can use the pandemic as an excuse, because of course we don't have, like, some of the wrestlers are stuck overseas, and, you know, some people can't make it to the shows and stuff like that. I mean, it's hard, but I'm still kind of in the middle in between. But overall, I'm just leaning towards yes. I think they've done well at it.
That's fair. That's pretty good. And Jackie's comment, no, there isn't Hispanic that's not playing out the fact that she's ghetto and a heel.
I don't think there is. They're all heel. Every single one.
Every single heel. And also, just to clarify for Sammy's great point, but make one point though, the diversity he didn't mention as champions have all been in the women's division. And Scorpio Sky's run as tag team was pretty damn short. Okay, Todd, go ahead.
Oh, I was still thinking about Jackie's question, because that's honestly kind of horrifying that they're all heels. I mean, I want to believe. I mean, I know
actually no Hispanic is actually signed as of right now.
Yeah, I was like, because there was technically a dark talent who's a face. It's the Soul guy, but I can't. But he's technically development talent. I mean
in the women's division. In the women's division, there's no Latin talent yet.
Yeah. For diversity, obviously it's a mixed bag. You made an excellent point, Maria, about how a lot of the diversity is being jobbed out in AEW Dark, and I know we're going to be talking about Dark in a bit, so I'll just gloss over that for now. That is disconcerting, but there's also the other factor where they are bringing in certain talent that either wouldn't be touched by other divisions and aren't typical talent. And my two biggest examples are easily Nyla Rose and Sunny Kiss. Nyla was, of course, the second women's champion, had two amazing matches with Riho, some of my favorite matches in all of AEW. Sunny Kiss has become this uber fan favorite in all the right ways. They had Sunny had that great match with Cody, and that was the first match on Dynamite, which a lot of people note is always sometimes the best match of the night because they always come to bring it first match out. And of course, now Sunny and Janela. Are they officially Bad Romance or My Chemical Romance or whatever you want to call it? But like, that was a cool thing. They had a great vignette, but could they be better? Oh, there is always a way to get better. That is just how diversity needs to be. There's always a way to get new talent, bring it in, and make it special. And so, yes, AEW could always get better. But given what they have done with who they have done, like Scorpio doing that run in AEW Dark and then cutting that great promo to go fight Cody, you know, people were hyped for that. They wanted Scorpio Sky to win. And so that shows that, you know, the ones they are pushing, it's working. You know, Sunny is over, Scorpio is over, Nyla was over after a while, and it works. But you can always do better. Always. You're muted, Maria.
Caro, do you want to go?
Yeah. So I think to have this conversation, it's super important to understand the difference between diversity and inclusion. So I think in terms of diversity, AEW has a number of Black, Hispanic, and other talents and people of color on their roster, but I want to key in on inclusion because I think that's the most important thing. In terms of inclusion and including those stars on like main storylines, main roster stuff, there needs to be a lot of improvement there. There is so much amazing talent of color on Dynamite and just on Dark. It's just in that entire roster, like Santana and Ortiz are fantastic. I love them so much, and I just wish they had more of a spotlight on the show. And with Dark, I actually didn't know that people were saying that about Dark. I didn't know until now. I didn't know that was a thing. And I just think that, again, like, AEW's done a great job of including independent wrestlers and independent wrestlers of color onto their show. And like you said, like, it did come to a point where it was formulaic, where those talent were losing. And I think it is a great idea to just start building those talents up. Like, I forget if it was either Maria or Jack, but like having promos to build them up and build up their background, I think that's fantastic. That is great. I think that would definitely get more people invested into their stories and to get them to tune into Dark more. I liked how Diamante and Ivelisse had that singles match on Dynamite last month, showcasing independent talent. And you could do that on Dark. You could have like maybe one match or two matches a week where it's just independent talent, just like, you know, wrestling each other. And I think that would be great. And I think that would be a good opportunity for underrepresented talent to just have that spotlight. And you could even build up promos and build up like a story with them. And I just think that AEW could do a better job at inclusion, and that's something I would like to see going forward. Like, they have diversity nailed down, they just need to work on the inclusion part of getting that representation in. So yeah.
Okay. Great points. Professor, do you have anything to add on to it?
Yeah, I mean, being an educator, diversity and inclusion is extremely important for us in education, and that's the same for me when I look at wrestling. We want people. I'm Mexican. I think as being a minority, we want to see people of our background succeed. So I'm going to say this point blank. As of this moment, AW Dark is a crock of shit because it's literally jobber matches. It used to be something better, and I know we're giving these independent stars, but even the independent stars they bring, look at Will Hobbs, look at Sean Dean, look at Pineapple Pete. These guys, they have a lot of potential to be somebody. Will Hobbs is a monster. Sean Dean has a great look. I think Pineapple Pete could be a bigger star than Kofi Kingston. And they let him go and just like, okay, go back to, and it's great that they paid him. And I'm not saying it's not. Everybody needed a handout during this pandemic era. But it's the equivalent of superstars when Tito Santana would get a win over Barry Horowitz or the Brooklyn Brawler. That's what AEW Dark is. And I don't even tune in anymore because we already know who's going to win and we already know who's going to lose. But if you look at the diversity and inclusion, let me throw out this for you and put up the timer if I start running low. So if you look at Pride and Powerful, one of our favorite teams we wanted when they got signed, they came out all out of pop. From what I looked at, the last time they got a win on AEW Dynamite was back in January. Okay, so now we go on to Sonny Kiss. Sonny Kiss, everybody loves. I love Sonny Kiss. I think Sonny Kiss is one of the best athletes in AEW. He is amazing. His splits and everything. I think he's amazing. Last time he got a win on a significant show that wasn't Dark was last year, Fight for the Fallen over Peter Avalon. Every single win that he's had has been on that I can see based on the records is on AEW Dark, and specifically with Joey Janela mostly. And you did that vignette, and everybody got hyped. Everybody got hyped by Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. And then all of a sudden they started doing really good on Dark. They went up against Brody and Colt, and then that was it. They lost steam. Moving into Private Party. Everybody loved Private Party. Private Party was doing great. They did get a win in July over Santana Ortiz. And then then before that, I'm looking, and the next one I see is November of 2019. Ray Phoenix. Everybody loves Ray Phoenix. He did get these tag wins that he recently had. And he got a win on May 20th against Orange Cassidy. Most of his, and then before that in March with Death Triangle, and then March 18th with Lucha Bros. So the numbers, I mean, the data is there. Scorpio Sky, everybody loves Scorpio Sky, the one that everybody wanted to win. Everybody thought was amazing. I think he's great. We all love him. Okay, he's 7-2. The last time he got a win on AEW Dynamite, and I'm looking, was February 5th over Best Friends. And if you, I mean, and there's March 4th in a eight man over the Dark Order, which was SCU and Colt Cabana versus Dark Order. So if I'm lying, I mean, go to cagematch.net, look at all the results, and you'll see it. So the numbers are not lying about, as Caro said, the diversity versus inclusion. I mean, are we trying to promote diversity? And again, this is the standard that we're holding AEW to, because they said this. They announced that by diversity and inclusion. I'm not even talking about the women's division, because we'll wait for that later. But this is the standard AEW said. This is what Tony Khan and this is what everybody and the fellow group said. And I know we're being very, I'll just say, somewhat negative, but we want them to do better. We want this because this is what we want. We want an alternative to WWE. We want to see. And then during this time, WWE's hearing these cries, and look at what they're doing. They're doing it intentionally, pushing the women and men of color. So, like I said, if you don't believe me, look it up yourself.
Yeah. To quote that comment from Jackie, those stats are mind-blowing. Like, wow.
Wait to hear some of the stats in the women's division, but very good job. Thank you for being the professor and laying down those facts. Ben?
I don't know what you're talking about as far as WWE, but we'll move on from that, because WWE promotes black wrestlers until they can find a white wrestler they can use to put over. So
that's their cross to bear.
Hurt business.
I agree, Ben. I'm just saying, like, right now they're taking advantage of it.
Okay, but yeah, the AEW is not doing a good job right now. I have hope. This is my daughter Naomi that keeps doing a run-in.
Hey Naomi, baby girl. Hi, sweetie.
They like with the tag division, Santana Ortiz not doing anything with them. Private Party, they beat the Young Bucks, and you're like, oh, they're gonna do something with them. Haven't done anything with them. There's no Ray Phoenix and Pentagon not doing anything with them.
All right, can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. You're just muted, man.
Yeah, it's a hurricane here, so I don't know. Just got to enclose myself in this room. But anyway, so what?
You're interrupting Ben. Be quiet.
Yeah.
Wait.
So and the Sunny
what are we talking about?
Sammy, not your turn. It's Ben's turn.
Mm-hmm.
Let him talk.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute.
Okay, go Ben.
So Ben's talking, but Sammy, be careful if there's a hurricane, please.
Yeah, I'm in a room, so I'll be.
Please
fine.
don't die.
That would be bad for rating.
Okay.
We can't play this back if you die.
I'm not gonna die. I've been through a tornado, right? I saw one a mile away from my house one time, so I'll be fine.
All right, Ben.
Right.
I'm sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
Go, Ben.
It's okay. It's okay. I have hope for the Sunny Kiss thing that they had the big match with Cody, then hopefully they're gonna split him off from Janela and move forward. I have hope for that. I have hope for Big Swole and what they're hopefully going to do going forward. I have hope for, they botched Nyla Rose. They just did. There's no denying that. But I have hope for them going forward. But what we've seen as of now, like the only person of color that really gets part of a storyline is Brandy, because she's married to Cody, and Ortiz and Santana did kind of as like Jericho's lackeys. Like, we'll get some Latinos to do the hard hitting stuff, So like, it hasn't been good so far. However, I do feel like since they are aware of it, that I have hope for the future for what I think they're trying to do. Obviously Cody's taking some time away. So I mean, hopefully this is the time where they push Sonny Kiss, maybe even be Sonny the one that eventually takes the belt off of Brody. Hopefully. I'm hopeful because you have people that are at least in charge, that are at least aware of the situation, as opposed to WWE, where a wrestler has a certain look and that look is either white or Samoan. And if you don't look like that, then you're not gonna be the guy. So yeah, that's my hope. But so far they have not done a good job of it.
So I think Brainy Soul was next.
I was gonna say something about Proud and Powerful too, because I wasn't familiar with them before I saw them in AEW. But I heard, really good things, and they're an awesome tag team. They can do a lot of, amazing things. And I feel like they have largely been relegated to being, and not just Chris Jericho's last, but almost like the comedy wrestlers of the inner circle. I'm thinking about the Stadium Stampede, where I can't remember which one of them was that literally got his bell rung, and it was just kind of like, and then they're trying to drown Matt Hardy in the pool. One of them can't swim.
Yeah.
And I realized that the Stadium Stampede was supposed to be like a fun thing, but then you have them, when the blood oranges drop down on everybody in the ring, who's the one who's pratfalling on their faces? It's Proud and Powerful.
Yeah.
It's not Chris Jericho. It's not Sam. It's not Jake Hager. So I would really like to see them break away from it. I'd like them to maybe even form their own faction with Ivelisse and Diamante, and just be, I know we don't, it's like, do we need, some people are gonna say, do we need more than one Latino faction? And they're in, why not? Why not have, because that would be really great. And, then those guys could really show what they can do, apart from being in Chris Jericho's shop.
Yeah. All right, All Elite Kyle, you're next.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everybody that there's definitely a diversity and inclusion issue, and especially Dark. Pretty much, honestly, it seems like Dark is just a place where people of color get jobbed out. And for an example, Orange Cassidy had a squash match against Will Hobbs, which was bullshit. But I think they need to. I think they need to do a better job of building up any of the people of color on the roster, like such as Sonny Kiss, and definitely sign more. Like for example, from Dark, I would sign Will Hobbs in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the women's division, they definitely need more women of color They have Big Swole, but I would love to see Cole Savoy sign, and I would honestly say probably bring in Willow Nightingale. If you've never any of her work. She's really great as well. And just mostly just focus on on building up everybody, because they've done a really bad job of it, especially on Dark.
I want to say I totally agree with the Nicole Savoy thing. She was my MVP of that entire tag tournament. I mean, her chemistry with Swole, Big Swole, was lol. Yeah, and lol. Like, they were so much fun. I hated that they didn't make it to the finals just because of Brandy.
They
and
should not have lost.
Brandy and Bunny. I
They
mean,
should
just
not
there.
have lost.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you want to know how quickly they won me over,
I
it
agree
was
with
when
you,
Nicole
Caro.
Savoy started singing Happy Birthday, and Big Swole like instantly took it. Was like, to me, to you, and I'm like, okay, yep, I like him. Let's. And then Nicole just in the ring, so flawlessly technical. It was awesome.
Just to add to Kyle about Will Hobbs losing, and I love this guy. I love him. He's one of my favorite guys in AEW. But Darby Allin should not have beat Will Hobbs on Dynamite.
Nope.
I mean, Darby Allin, if let's be serious, is like $130 going against. It's like, it would be like legit a high school wrestler beating Brock Lesnar. I mean, Will Hobbs was a monster, and I don't know. I know we try to suspend wrestling as like, a disbelief, but like, it couldn't have been like, I'm sorry, but it couldn't have been like Peter Avalon. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
really?
you're right.
So, and I agree, Nicole was, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say my women
Yeah.
comments for later.
Yep.
By far, one of the most disappointing decisions AEW has made with booking. Actually, I think it's up there with like one of my top 3 like disappointing decisions. Is just how they booked the Pineapple Pete match with Chris Jericho, because I am still mad about that. They built him up for 2 weeks. They gave him a promo. They gave him a video package. They put him on Dynamite with one of the biggest wrestlers in the world. And I thought that the way they were building that match, they were going to go for like 10 to 15 minutes. It was like 2 minutes. It's total squash match. I was so mad.
Yeah, it was terrible.
When it happened, and I get that was kind of like the intention that they were going for. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be mad at Chris Jericho, but the black wrestler getting squashed, and with AEW's inclusion problem right now, no.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I think AEW did this to themselves, though. This is similar to what they did with the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
When they first came out, they said they were going to be diverse, they were going to be inclusive. I believe Cody, and you guys should correct me if I'm wrong, Cody said that unlike WWE, he's going to have an African-American champion. In fact, Scorpio Sky should be the AEW champion. And then we get the match between Cody and Scorpio Sky, and Dark has become so bad. Like, I don't even watch it anymore. I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch it anymore. If it's an AEW signed person, they're gonna win.
Which brings us to your next point, though. If we talk about AEW Dark, we were talking about how do you make it a valid show to watch anymore, and you had brought up a point that I liked by actually throwing in a title.
Yep. Oh yeah. On the last time we were together, JR was on the thing, and we said that they have Matt Cardona bring back the Internet Championship, have that be defended on AEW Dark. Actually, have people want to tune in to see what's going on with AEW Dark, and not just be fodder. Like you just put in a local talent and have them get beat. And then when we're talking about still with the diversity thing, I'm Mexican. And I see the Lucha Brothers. They were huge on Impact. They're huge on AAA, and they're being used so bad in AEW. You guys brought up Proud and Powerful, how they were supposed to be these badasses. They came in wearing the president's mask on, and now they're just a comedy act. And knowing now what we didn't know then is they were never meant to be in the inner circle. It was supposed to be the Good Brothers. So once they were done with it, Jericho and them, they don't know what to do with Proud and Powerful, so they just keep on booking them as these thugs, and that's what it was brought up earlier that it was just all the Hispanics are bad. Diamante and Ibeliz, they're kind of heelish. Tay Conti is now a part of the Dark Order.
It's not even just that though. You have a white person that's heading them. So you have Brody, if Conti, you have Jericho who had Santana and Ortiz, you have Pac who had Lucha Bros, and now they're actually with Butcher and the Blade.
And
You always
Eddie
have
Kingston.
but you always have a token
Yep.
minority
Mhm.
that's putting over the talent. And that's written in movies, that's written everywhere. Like that's a formula that hasn't changed, but they could change it. This is the easy way to change it.
Yep.
Something
And
that
then-
changes per week, you know?
I do want to correct one thing. It was something you said, Jack, that the Lucha Bros have been booked horribly. They were the hottest thing at the beginning.
The
Like
beginning.
original Double
The
or
beginning,
Nothing, then
though.
Fight for the Fallen in the 6-man, and then of course Escalada de la Muerte. But after that, then that's horrible.
And then when it comes to African American male representation, all we have is Scorpio Sky, and he's related to one of the elite people. So it's just like Sean
Yes.
Dean should have been signed. Sean Dean should have been signed. I like Ellen Angels, but when you look at the talent they brought in, Will Hobbs, Sean Dean, they should have been automatically signed. Those are guys you could put a rocket behind their back and you could like launch them and they'll like be popular. They'll be famous. Kind of like what you did with Orange Cassidy.
Pineapple Pete.
Pineapple Pete.
I'm sorry, that one still hurts.
Yeah.
Like Caro said, that one still
Always
hurts.
hurts. Always
Part of the
hurts.
reason the
I
Lucha Bros
swear
aren't
to-
getting a push is because they
I'm
are
just gonna say this.
stepping into the law.
What happened?
I love Pineapple Pete. Pineapple Pete, I will be indebted to him for the
Yes.
rest of my life. He took time out of his schedule and he talked to my kids about Black Lives Matter, my students.
Yeah.
I love that man forever because he did something he didn't have to. That's just personally. Professionally, he has the charisma. He could literally been AEW's version, equivalent version or bigger than Kofi Kingston. Everybody was behind him, and they literally just killed him in 90 seconds. And even though you saw the fans get behind him, like you couldn't just think like, well, maybe we should ride this. And I'm not saying like maybe at that time like beat Jericho, but like, hey, we should sign him. I mean, they did with Eddie Kingston, they did with Ricky Starks. Like, why not him?
Sean Dean actually, it hadn't been announced, but Sean Dean is signed.
Oh, good.
Oh,
He
okay.
got-
You signed? That's awesome. Derek Malik.
I've got some friends who work for independents who also work for AEW, and AEW pulled him from a show last night.
Awesome. That's great news. I love Sean Dean. He's from Chicago.
Thank you, Kyle. That put a little
Chicago.
band-aid on my
Yeah.
wounds right
Yeah.
now. I love you, Kyle.
But we have a comment from YouTube where Chris Bay, Cody was talking him up before AEW, and then they never reached out to him, and now he's X Division champion.
That was real quick.
He lost it,
Yeah.
but
He lost it.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Darn Cody.
Yeah. Cody curse.
He actually,
So bringing it back real quick to end the AEW Dark discussion, do you guys think an internet belt or some sort of like grab would help AEW Dark?
Well, my thoughts.
It
You know,
matter.
all right, go ahead, Sammy.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a comment about this. Like, like you said earlier, like, I don't know who said this. I think it might have been Caro, but just, you know what? I think it was Maria. So just have something on
AEW Dark to like build up the talent a little bit, because nowadays it's used like the entire show, just like use people who are already signed to AEW to just go over the people who are not signed, and to like maybe up the stakes a little bit, maybe just have the internet title on Dark maybe a few times a week, or how about get Brian Cage down there, get the FTW title, and just have him defend it, and like maybe every single week, like an open challenge or something, but like just kind of like Cody. All right, so that's gonna bank all eyes on Dark. All right, because you don't know who's gonna appear like this week or next week and something like that. So I think that's what they should do, really. And for Dark, you're just, there's a lot of filler matches. All right, because last week's episode was like 2 hours. It was just full of unnecessary matches, and quite some bad, and some bad ones. For example, like you said, Caro, on Pineapple Pete and. No, this was on Dynamite. So just build up Pineapple Pete and then have him lose to Chris Jericho. And then you have Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus Michael Nakazawa and Pineapple Pete. And personally, in the top 3 worst AEW matches like ever. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I hated that match so much. And
and that's the thing with Dark. In order to fix the format of the show, just have some intriguing matches. Like, I don't know if I said that right, but just and like I said earlier, just get the internet title down there or the FTW title, and you're gonna have some views on AEW Dark. And actually, you would even have to bring in some, like, maybe bring in some more independent wrestlers, but like maybe, kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, just have a championship down there, and it's gonna be like your most watched show of the week. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, because they're competing against Impact at this point. So why would somebody? Go ahead.
I think another thing that they could really do that would make more sense if you want to watch it is do like a tournament with the guys who you're just throwing into all these 5-man, 6-mans, whatever on Dynamite. Do a tournament. Whoever wins that gets a title shot, either heavyweight or you could do TNT title on Dynamite, and that way you can use those guys on Dark. I understand that you don't want guys to be losing or whatever, but if it's part of it, you could even say tournaments don't count for records or whatever you want. But like you do the tournament, and then those guys that's something to tune in to see who's going to get to face Brody for in a main event match. But then when that person gets there, I'm not saying they have to win, but the match can't be 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's got to be a long match. It's got to be well fought. And really, since you've got a heel champion, Brody, anyway, just have him cheat to win.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is my biggest complaint is that, especially at the beginning, think about the matches we got at AEW Dark at the beginning, like Kip Sabian versus Kenny Omega, which is actually at the show I was at in Champaign, where someone went into the ring instead of me. Who was that? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But and then
you had to actually also add the fact that we had a Kenny Omega Dark match.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, when was the last time we had a good Dark match?
Yeah.
Here's the
Don't
thing.
forget Kenny versus Joey Janela, the lights out match that was 5 stars, and we got the rematch on Dynamite. Like, that was how impactful that was on Dark.
But
here's the thing.
Really quick, Kyle, you were gonna say something. I know I saw you try to say something. You gotta chime in real quick.
Oh,
one at a time.
I was basically gonna say what Todd was saying. Like, I don't understand how Dark went to what it is now, because it used to be must watch. Like, we had Kenny and Joey, Kenny and Jack Evans. I mean, it used to have some really good matchups, and I also like the old format of them doing like a promo for a new wrestler, like what they did with Big Swole, like how they used to have that from undesirable to undeniable thing.
Yes, those were so good. That's a good point. I forgot all about that.
We also had an intergender match in Dark.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
The simple way to make Dark relevant is to make it quality night in and night out. You're always going to have a bad match every once in a while. That's unavoidable in any wrestling brand. But when Dark started, it was like, oh, these are more matches. This is more Darby Allin. This is more Joey Janela. This is like a couple weeks ago, ironically, we had Sonny Kiss versus Christopher Daniels, and it was awesome. It went the distance. There was a storytelling element where Daniels almost snapped, and Aubrey had to say, "You're better than this." Those are the kinds of matches we need in Dark. Now you can keep the initiative. That's a good storyline for Dark, but you need to have other things and not 2-hour matches full of 2-hour shows full of 13 matches, or few of them go longer than 5 minutes. That's not entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, let me take this back a little bit to add what you're saying, Todd. So take it all the way back to the first episode of AEW Dynamite. When you film the Dark matches, people are wondering, oh, are these matches going to be filmed? And AEW told you yes. Then we got the matches, Darby Allin versus Shima, a legend in Dragon Gate. Then you have a huge 8-man tag team match with the Lucha Brothers, and I think it was Best Friends, the Hybrid 2, and some other team. I forgot their names, but and back then Dark was, I mean, just like you have more fans tuning in to see, like, since the first episode of AEW Dynamite aired, you're going to have these new fans saying, oh, cool, there's more of this, and I want to watch more. And that's what these matchups meant. And it all went down from here. And I think since the pandemic began, you have all these matches being thrown around and, like, on the fly and stuff like that. And that's why we're getting, like, all these just, like, bad and, like, mediocre type matches. And how we can fix Dark is just try to revert back to the old format the best you can. Just like utilize the talent you have there now. I mean, just don't wait for the other people who are stuck overseas to come back so you can do it. Just utilize the talent you have there now. And that's the same thing going for the women's division. Tag Conti is there, Anna Jay, and all those other women. Just utilize them to the women's division. Give them time on Dynamite. Just don't wait. Don't wait for anything. Just put them on now. And that's the same thing going for Dark. Just, I mean, that's just to the point. Utilize the talent you have there now, just to get more eyes on it. And I mean, like you said, I think it was Ben. Just do like a tournament type thing where the winner gets to challenge for a championship, and you could do this like maybe once in a while, just to have people like out of curiosity just tune in, and then you're just gonna see what this guy is all about, so he can challenge, like, for example, John Moxley or Brody Lee, for example. Just revert to the old format the best you can. I mean, just with the talent now.
I will say COVID does play a role in when you have the local talent, because like a lot of us were there when Dynamite was in Chicago and Matt Nix was on, and nobody's chanting Cody, everybody's chanting freestyle wrestling.
Yeah.
So you don't have that where like you've got the AEW guy coming in to face the local guy, where everybody that knows the local guy is cheering for them,
Yep.
And so
that's a good point.
You do lose a small part of that to keep that match going and keep it interesting with the crowd aspect of it.
To add on to your tournament, since we didn't even know that Sean Dean was signed, they could have kept that kind of quiet, and they could have done a tournament. Winner of the tournament gets a contract.
Yeah,
and they could have built. They could have built up Sean Dean right there.
Okay.
I actually just point this back to NXT. They did this a few months back. Just have that breakout tournament.
Yeah.
Jordan Miles won that, and just winner gets a contract, and just showcase the talent you have there now. For example, Sean Dean could have won that, or somebody else like Brady Pierce, just guys from SHW. I know, Kyle, you attended quite a few events there, so and that's where they get most of the talent from for Dark. Just use them in that breakout style tournament. And that's how some of these guys in NXT right now have some eyes on them. For example, Cameron Grimes has come so far, like, since that breakout tournament. He is now a really huge star in NXT. Just use the talent you have there now, and then just put, like, Sean Dean up against, like, Brody Lee and John Moxley. So I just wanted to revert back to that.
You could even do something even simpler. You have a tournament, the winner gets to challenge whoever they want on Dynamite's main roster.
Oh, that would be a great idea.
Because then you could cut promos. They could say, "Why do you think you challenged me?" I'm like, "Because I noticed your weaknesses. You're not good at this." You know what I mean?
That's
Like
good.
the promo fire would be amazing. Forget main events. Don't do pay-per-views. Just do a Dynamite.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing with me. So I'll admit, I have not consistently watched AEW Dark since maybe January. It's been a while. Like, I'll tune in every once in a while, but then I look at the card and how stacked it is, and I'm like, I'm gonna go watch Impact instead.
Our conversations are always Impact, and it's sad.
Yeah, but
Impact is good though.
It is good. It's improved a lot, but that's another topic for a different time. But anyway, so when I'm thinking to myself, like, what would get me to watch AEW Dark consistently? And to me, it's what a lot of you have said. It's make storyline progression significant in Dark. Give people incentives to tune in and see the talent just show off their skills. I loved how they formatted Dark for the first few months. They had really creative match stipulations. They had title opportunities. They brought in Kenny and Mox. And somewhere along the line, that formula was lost. Like, I don't know what they did to, like, change it up, but, like, they should have consistently kept going with that. And I know, again, COVID is a thing, but utilize what you have on your roster. Like, you have so much talent. You have so much independent talent on your roster. And I just think this is a great opportunity to get really creative with Dark. Like, change up the match types. Change up, like, the incentives for people to tune in. Like, the tournaments that you mentioned, for example. Just, step away from the very stacked 2-hour card of Dark. Because too many matches on the card is, like, a bad thing, because eventually you get worn out of it. Like, Dark doesn't need to be, like, a 2-hour thing. It could be 1 hour but filled with great wrestling and storyline progression. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say there.
Let me say this though. So AEW Dark before COVID, this is literally one of the last ones. There was Dark Order versus Strong Hearts, Joey Janela versus Kip Sabian, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall versus Peter Avalon and Sean Spears. So that was like one of like the last ones before COVID. During COVID at the very beginning, because everything was locked down, they were pulling independent talent like Pineapple Pete because they were from the area and they could be in driving distance. Because as if you remember when COVID happened, the Young Bucks couldn't get to California, couldn't get from California to Florida or Georgia. Right. So that's why they were doing a lot of those things, which it was completely makes sense. You're paying independent talent. Okay, now we're at the point now where things are starting to open up. If you look at the AEW roster, as far as the men that's on list on the website, SEMA and Pac are the only two that are not available out of a 60-man roster. So I am happy that people are getting paid. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But now's the time to where it's like, okay, are you going? If you're not going to do something with these indie talents, then cut them and let them go do something else. Sign Will Hobbs or let him go and go do something else. I mean, that is, in my honest opinion. If you need to, and I hate saying this, but it's a business. If you need to cut somebody to bring them in, then you need to cut somebody to bring them in. The women's division, they have 5. They have 17 women and 5 can't travel. So that's listed on the roster as of this moment that I just checked on AEW.com. So the whole thing, like, well, they have people out of the area, that doesn't fly anymore because they're all there. So you can it's not even about having an internet title. It's about what you do. You have those talents that you can showcase. You're just choosing not to for whatever reason, whether it's because you want to keep paying these indie talents, which is great. I completely support it. People need money. Like, shit's fucked up right now. Like, let's be real. It still is. But if you're not going to use them, it's a detriment to your own talent that you have signed.
Yeah. And then if you want to get creative, have one match per dark and call it like a Rising Stars match, and you have someone like like Brian Pillman Jr. versus Will Hobbs or whatever, or what was that Jungle guy's name? Who the F is Griff Garrison or something like that? One of those guys.
Does Ring of Honor do that? They have like the Rising Stars Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
I remember.
Harrison,
All right, guys, we got to move on to the next topic. AEW Women's Division. So we're going to mute everybody's mics again, and then we'll go down the row to make sure everybody's there's no feedback on everybody when they talk. So yeah, you guys know Jack wrote that article about the women's division and the statistics, and it kind of blew up on our face for a little bit, but it was all just there. The numbers spoke for themselves. Not only that, I went back today and I did a little bit of digging just to kind of do apples versus apples. And I know it's really hard to compare WWE or any other promotion with AEW, but just on simple things alone, like if you look at, say, just the results on AEW's website, just the results site. So you go through all the Dynamites and you can click on it and get the results for the night. Not one of those thumbnails has any women on them. Not one of them. If you go back to WWE and you go to Raw and you click on the archives and it shows you who won, it'll say Bayley and Sasha, thumbnail Bayley and Sasha. They'll talk about R-Truth, Randy Orton, anybody else. You'll see Liv Morgan, blah, 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 anybody else. But you'll see thumbnails of just a highlight for that night as the results. Simple little things like that make me feel like when AEW talks about the women's division and they want to hype it up, but it feels like it's an afterthought, even on your main production. You see next week that Tony Khan tweeted all the matches, not one thing mentioned about a females match or a marquee card on there. Little things like that we can't even go back to and justify it. When I go back and look past January, all the matches that Riho had, usually the majority of them kind of came in around 10 minutes and a little bit above that. Ever since she lost the championship, we've actually only gotten about 8-minute matches from her and Nyla together. The longest matches that have gone on were Riho. Riho actually had like 3 to 4 16-minute like matches. They actually went pretty long. Shida and Nyla were the only ones that had a 16-minute match. Everything else has been very short. The shortest matches that Riho actually had were with Britt Baker at the beginning, because we all know she was a little green when she first came out, which were maybe between 5 to 6 minutes long. But nothing under 6 minutes, Riho never touched it. She was always going above 12 to 13 minutes. She was putting out a match out there. So looking at what has been happening, even in the last couple of months, we've seen that Shida has been sidelined. 4 to 5 of her matches were only 2 to 3 minutes long. One of them was actually 3 seconds long on Dark, which it was a Red Velvet, I think it was. It was 3 seconds long, and that's all we had from her. We actually have only gotten maybe, I think I wrote down 2 to 3 vignettes since she's actually been champion. We actually had only 1 vignette from Riho. We didn't have a talk-up match between her and Emi Sakura, even though it was the master versus student, which we have talked to you guys, some of you guys on separate podcasts. They could have built that up too. Yeah, it's just looking at the smaller details. You can always paint a bigger picture, but when you look at the smaller details of even just putting the results of the shows, even some of the bigger matches that they've had, and they don't have even a marquee title for like a results for Dynamites. And mind you, at this point, if you click on the AEW site and go to results for all the Dynamites, it's a list. You know, we've had so many, like, I don't know, 80 something Dynamites since they started already. But all of them are guy marquees. Not one of them has a girl in the front of it. And it's kind of sad and it's disheartening because some of the girls actually had amazing matches on Dynamite. Not even Riho had one, that hurts a little bit because she was a really good champion. So that being said, we don't know if Tay Conti has a contract. It hasn't been really put out there. We don't know exactly what they're doing with Diamante or Eva Leaves. They won the tag team tournament, but they have not actually offered them a title, and it's kind of just fizzled out. They mentioned nothing afterwards this week. There's really nothing mentioned for next week. I was hoping we would get some sort of tag action with them for All Out. With that being said, though, I'm very grateful to see Thunder Rosa coming in for All Out. I think she is somebody, as I like what Beth uses as a crown jewel, somebody that will elevate the roster. She is a hard-hitting girl. She takes no crap from anybody. I think she's somebody that could actually kind of elevate the title too. I don't know if they'll go that far. But if they did, I don't think they would regret it at all. I don't know how the NWA contract and stuff works. But that being said, as a woman and as a minority, I am highly disappointed at where the division is right now. I think it only needs to go up at this point. It can't get any worse. And it's sad to say because their champions are the most diverse out of AEW. And that's hands down. We had Riho, we had Shida, and we had Nyla. If anybody else, if Thunder Rosa, that's another Hispanic right there. That's been straight across the board, all minorities. And I feel in some way that they're trying to do the right thing, but yet I don't know if they just don't want to capitalize it. Is it because they dip in ratings? Who gives a crap? At one point, every organization dipped in ratings when women's had matches. That's not the way to operate a business. You have to improve on that part and not just be like, you know what, I don't want to deal with it because we're losing ratings. So that's how I feel. Jack, do you want to chime in? I know we both feel really passionate about women's wrestling.
I really want to give the panel here a chance because me and you have probably beat this topic over the head so many times already. We've been through other podcasts where we were lucky to be invited and talked about it. So yeah, I'll let them go ahead, and I want to see their perspective and maybe find out how they feel.
All right, you go ahead and take the helm. I'm going to go find my dog.
Okay. So we're going to start off with Sammy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, buckle your seatbelts and turn on the jets because I've been very vocal about this women's division. All right, everyone's getting excited now. So here we go. The women's division is the biggest problem in AEW right now. So inconsistent time on Dynamite, and you have some of the matches on Dark and they're not being showcased properly. And this has been going back since the pandemic started. And like I said, utilize the talent you have that is currently in the area, like in the United States. Don't worry about the other people because they're stuck in like their respective homes. Just utilize the talent you have there. And besides, like for Evilise and Diamante, like on Dynamite, like last month, just give them like that amount of time. And for example, Shida did not have a direction as champion before Thunder Rosa came. And now she has that big, direction. And it only took for Thunder Rosa to come from NWA all the way here to AEW. So, and as for the women's, this women's division has the talent. All right. You can't deny that they have the talent, but the problem is they haven't been getting enough time like on Dynamite. And it's been very inconsistent, like for the past couple of months. And, on Twitter, people have been complaining about that. And I know the Elite have been hearing it, but they've got to do a better job at that. And let me tell you this for sure. If the Nightmare Sisters won the cup, Twitter would have been an all-out massacre. And no, horror fans, I'm not talking about a specific chainsaw in Texas. I'm talking about an all-out Twitter war. And that means that you're going to have insult left or right. Like, oh, Brandy's putting herself over because she wants this division to be around her. No, that's not the point. They want the other women to be like, just have the core. Like, don't be like WWE where there's one person. Just have like the core. And that could have been established already if the pandemic did not hit. So therefore, what they should do right now is just, I don't know if Diamante and Ivelisse are signed, maybe they are, but since they won the cup, but just have them like in a current, like, just have them in a direction. Just have them as the team, like, okay, we're new to this division and we're coming to wreak havoc and stuff like that. And just, you can just promote them. All right. Just a little bit of promotion for the women would not hurt one bit. And it might drop ratings, but it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. For example, Riho was one of the biggest draws AEW had when she was champion. And since she left, it all went down from there. Just, you need to have those certain type of people who have like the it factor. All right. We're talking about Riho here, but she's stuck in Japan. So just, even utilize Tanara Conti. Everybody loves her, all right? Like, she got some attention when the videos were uploaded to YouTube on, like, what was it called? The AEW YouTube channel, and she even brought some views. So that shows that Tanara has something special in her. So here is what I suggest. You just utilize her on Dynamite, and she has that current story with the Dark Order. And just have that as one of your biggest women's storylines right now next to Shida and Thunder Rosa. And you can even use Ivelisse and Diamante in some sort of storyline too. Just these new people, like, and I even like the diversity in that roster. Going back to 2 topics ago, like I even stated this out. But here's the thing. For the women's division, for everyone to not complain about it anymore, patience is all I can say. And that's what people have been telling me. Just, the pandemic, of course, has played a part, but you still have talent who are willing to come down to Jacksonville and wrestle. So you must put them on TV. And you can even put them on Dark if you have to. But, Dark's not going to cut it one bit. Just a little promotion will not hurt anything. That's just all I'm asking for. It's just, it's crazy because, the women, like you said, Caro, it's been like an afterthought, all right? And even Brandy Rhodes said, I want to feel included. Make them feel included. And just, I can't stress this enough, but you have no other choice. MLW doesn't have a women's division because they choose not to. New Japan doesn't either out of respect for Stardom. But here is AEW. You need to have some sort of you need to have women on TV in order to attract female friends, all right? Like fans. AEW heels is not enough, all right? Just simply talking there and just talking to the women's wrestlers. Just you want to see them on TV, all right? Just you even need that, and oh my God, I can't even stress this enough, man. It's just, it's insane, really, how the treatment they've been getting during the pandemic. But really, it's basically. Like Tony Khan and Brandy Rhodes and Kenny Omega, they're in charge of the women's division. And I even tweeted this out a few weeks ago. I love AEW and everything they do, but they have to do better with this division. They have to. And besides, it's just, I don't know, but I know Tony is not the biggest fan of wrestling, but Brandy Rhodes wants to do something for them. And that's why AEW Heels was created. And for the women you talk to on there, just put them on TV and just give them 15 to maybe 15 minutes max on Dynamite. And just have but for the Dynamite format, 2 women's matches and 1 is a promo. Just have that big story. And then you just have another storyline and progression like before the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, the division was starting to flourish. All before it came crashing down. Nyla Rose and B. Priestley had something going on. And, I think it was, Nyla was champion. And then it looked like she was going to feud with B. Priestley for the belt, but it all came crashing down. But Yeah, but I have 15 seconds left. But just, I mean, I even wasted all this time, but just do better with the division. So all I'm asking for is just, and to the point, little promotion will not hurt. Case closed. We're done.
No, great points. So Todd, you want to add on to that?
Yes, I can. I can define what's going on with AEW with an absolutely horrifying yet accurate WWE comparison. At WWE SummerSlam, there were 3 marquee women's matches: the Raw title, the SmackDown title, and Mandy versus Sonya. Now you could say, wait a minute, Todd. 2 of those were title matches. Now I will grant you that. They were still on the card. How many women's matches do we have at Double or Nothing? 1. How many women's matches do we have at Revolution? 1. I think we technically had 2 at Full Gear, but one of them was a pre-show match. I think. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Maria. So still, that's on the pre-show, and I don't care what wrestling show you're a part of. We don't count the pre-show. I have been horrified at times with how the AEW women's division has been handled, because they started out rather well. All right, they had the original Double or Nothing. They had the Fatal 4-Way, which was fun. They had the Joshi War, as I like to call it, the 6-woman match. That was fine. Then at All Out, the original, they had the Casino Battle Royale, which was cool. We got to see some really cool women in there, including some teases of who would be in AEW later. And then we had Riho versus Shida. And then, of course, first Dynamite, what do we have? Women's title match, Riho versus Nyla Rose. And it was good. And then ever since then, it's like, how much time should we give the women? Because there were like weeks where we would get one on Dark and one on Dynamite, if that. And sometimes there were tag team matches. I'm like, we can do better than that. They technically had a number 1 contenders match on Dark, but they didn't even call it that. It was just a Fatal 4-Way. That's when Emmy won, and she would eventually go on to challenge Riho. And with Shida, now part of it's pandemic, we all acknowledge that, but with Shida, they've dropped the ball so hard with her. She had the great match with Nyla where she came out as a Hikaru Tifa, as the fans like to say, and but then she went out to fight Penelope. She had a great match with Penelope, no doubt. What has she done since then? And then when they tried this open challenge thing to be like, Cody, I'm all for it, and if you saw Twitter, they were all for it. Thunder Rosa, Cyborg, not the DC character, the MMA fighter. She came out and said, yeah, I'll fight her and everything. And what did we get? Nothing. Oh, wait, we got Heather Monroe in a match. And don't judge me, Ben. He typed something in chat. But it's like, oh, we got Heather Monroe for a 2-minute match with a move, with her winning with a move she's never used before. And hey, I'm still here. Yeah, we know you're still here, Shida. That's the problem. You should be here more. And they've been building up this big, swole Britt Baker thing. I don't even know if they're fighting it all out. I thought that was the whole point, so that they could fight it all out. But I don't know if Britt's healthy or whatever. And sure, we have Shida versus Rosa, which is awesome. But I am afraid. I am afraid of how long they're going to give this match. This should be 20, 30 minutes easy. I know that's a push. But give me at least 20, which is basically what we had for Shida and Nyla. I don't know if they'll do it. Even though Thunder Rosa is an epic talent, NWA World Champion, her promo with her in the belt was perfect. The best way to introduce her. Why wasn't that weeks ago? Why did we have to wait to All Out? Yes, it's a pay-per-view, and I grant that, but Sheeta's floundering. We talked with Maria about this before. She was in the crowd more than she was in the ring. It's Shida. And granted, I'm totally biased because I totally have a crush on Shida. Don't hold that against me. But like this, she's still your champion, AEW, and she's done what? Don't judge me, Edge. She's done what exactly? She's had 2 title matches, technically. Oh, and then like that weird Diamante match that was a title match, but it wasn't. And then it really wasn't. Then it was 6 minutes and done. Heather Monroe was less than 2. Hey, I'm still here. It's like, what are you doing? They've had bursts of greatness. Riho, Statlander, Shanna, who quickly became one of my favorites because of the passion she showed in the ring. But then it just goes like this. And right now we're almost flatlining. That's no bueno. All right? And I don't like that because they have the talent. Yes, some is overseas, but even with the enhancement talent they have, they could use that. They could use Sheeta like they used Cody to build them up, like Killian King, like Christy James when they had her. Abaddon! Where is Abaddon? We don't know. And it's driving my mind now. Do I expect Sheeta to win it all out? Yes, but what happens next? I don't know, and that terrifies me. End of story. End of segment.
No, yeah. Abaddon was a fan favorite, and she's been stuck on Dark. So the Duchess of Dynamite could take it from here.
Well, okay. So I just want to say before I say anything, this is not me being negative. This is not me being an anti AEW fan. This is not me being pro WWE at all. I'm saying all of these things out of love. And I think that's what people need to understand. It's okay to criticize something that you love. So long as you're not overly negative about it, it's fine. But to just basically get into everything, again, like other people have said, the women's division is a huge issue right now. And I want to focus on this one thing that I've been seeing people say all over the internet, where people are like, well, if you just be patient, it'll get better. It'll get better. It'll get better. Don't worry. It'll get better. And I'm like, okay, but I just still want this to be a cop-out excuse like months from now when we're hypothetically at Revolution next year or at Double or Nothing next year. And worst case scenario, the division still isn't at the place where it should be. Are y'all going to say it'll get better then? 2 years into Dynamite. Are you still going to say that? AEW has been building up the tag team division and their men's division, and they are consistently the best parts of the show. If they've had time to build the talents in both of those divisions, what about the women? I understand that they faced obstacles. I understand that COVID's been an issue. I understand that a lot of the talent can't fly into the States right now. But that didn't stop the Stadium Stampede match from being amazing. That didn't stop the tag team division from being fantastic. That didn't stop FTR from like coming in. What's the excuse for the women's division? See, like all these things that's been happening with the division can be reasons, but they can't be excuses. And with the talent that they've been having in the women's division, they have the potential to utilize it. And I thought that the Tag Team Cup would be a great opportunity to do that. And in some cases, yes, but in other cases, specifically with the Nightmare Sisters almost going over, that was a big point of concern for me. And believe me, I'm happy that Diamante and Ivelisse won that, but I really want them signed. Not only are they Latinas, but they're amazing women with so much they could put into this division. And I just want the division to get into a much better place. The potential's there. Everything's there. It's just the booking, Tony, Brandy, Kenny, whoever's running the booking of that division. Like, there is that chance for you to really build these women up. And after All Out, leading into the build up to Full Gear, it's a great opportunity to start building these stories. Like, again, we have the thing with Anna Jay and Tay Conti, Tay J going on. Build on that. Maybe there's tension between the two. Build a story with that. I would love to see Hikaru Shida and Abaddon have a feud. That would be incredible, because Abaddon was one of my favorites, like, signees of this year. I think she's fantastic. Have them feud. Once Britt Baker gets out of her injury, have her feud with someone else. Like, you have the 3-month period from All Out to Full Gear to start building stories. And that's the key here. Give people a reason to get invested in these storylines. Have character progression. Start building these feuds. Build up the women in promos. Dynamite disappointed me this week because the women's match was crammed in between really awkward pacing. So like the second hour Dynamite had like, I forget, like it had the MJF Mox contract signing, a tag match, the Dark Order celebration, the women's match, and then the tables match. It's like 5 things in 2 hours or in 1 hour. And it's just the pacing's been an issue where the women only get like 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes per episode. And that's something I just don't want to see anymore. If AEW made the promise to be very inclusive with their promotion, that absolutely extends to the women too. Women's wrestling is in such an amazing place right now, and AEW has the perfect opportunity to capitalize on that. But they won't unless the building of the storylines gets better. And again, I'm saying this out of love. I want the division to get better. Otherwise, I wouldn't be watching AEW Dynamite every week. I watch every week because I care about the product. I want it to get better. I think it's a great opportunity to be an alternative to WWE and other mainstream promotions out there. And again, it's a lot of mixed feelings that I have. The potential's there. They just need to capitalize on it. That's my thing. Yeah.
Great points. Now we take it to the professor.
So for me, two of my favorite types of wrestling is women's wrestling and tag team wrestling. So the AEW women's division is suffering really bad. They have 17 women on the roster. Currently, 4 of them can't travel. Emmy, Shayna, Riho, Yuka. Then you have 3 of them are injured. Chris, Statlander, Awesome Kong, Britt Baker. So now you're down to, as far as actively signed, you have 10 women. Well, Anna Jay and Abaddon were just hired. So now you have 8 women, including Brandy. That's Allie, Swole, Sheeta, Leva Bates, Mel, Nyla, and Penelope Ford. That's it. That's all the roster they have at this current moment. When you look at how much time they've given to women as far as pay-per-views, if you go back to Riho versus Emi Sakura, they had about 13 minutes. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander at Revolution, they had about 13 minutes. When you go to Double or Nothing, Sheeta and Nyla Rose, they had about 17 minutes. At the end of the day, when you look at this and people say we have to be patient, that doesn't fly. I'm going to tell you why. Back in February of 2015, WWE had the women's Give Divas a Chance after the women had 30 seconds. You have been given the playbook of what not to do by WWE and other companies that say, hey, this is what, like, you have a head start now. Say, hey, these are our mistakes. Don't do this, and fans are going to be happy. And they have not done that. They have not put a big spotlight in women's division. And the biggest examples I'll give is this week on AEW Dynamite. They put the NWA Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, versus the AEW Women's Champion, which should be considered one of the biggest champion versus champion matches in the history of professional wrestling. And it's about how you advertise it. They put them in a contract signing in a fucking bathroom. Let's be real, like in a bathroom where you have John Moxley versus MJF, and that segment went like 4 minutes too long, and they put it in the ring. Why didn't you put that women's versus women, even if you did a pre-take segment, why wasn't the equivalent of Cody versus Jake Hager when they had their TNT Championship match? Even if you put it behind the scenes, did a 4 or 5 minute behind the scenes retrospect where you had people asking questions, and you could have had Sheeta on one side, you could have had Thunder Rosa on the other side asking questions, and everybody said, well, Sheeta made us speak Spanish, or speak English. I'm sorry, they do that shit all the time in the UFC. Half their fighters don't speak English correctly. So you could have easily done that. It doesn't fly. You could have, it's how you advertise it and you promote it, is how you get people behind it. And obviously people are saying we want this. So, and I know there's a lot of fans out there, a lot of people who are going, and I think my time's going up, but they're really behind saying, hey, we want, give it time, or saying, hey, well, women's ratings, women's don't get ratings. Well, you know what? If you don't believe in that product as AEW, whether you're Tony Khan or you're Kenny Omega, whoever's behind the women's division, then release those women and let them go somewhere else then. And then just put single men and put tag team men. Because I love those women. I love Nyla Rose. I love Chris Statlander. I love Britt Baker. I love Sheeta. They are 4 of my top 10 women in the entire women's wrestling in general, whether, companies be damned. It's how you advertise and how you push it. If you don't put your full effort behind it, how do you expect your fans to support it?
Man, you were on fire there. Dropped a couple of naughty words, but
I'm sorry, I was hot.
No, it's cool. It drove in your points. Now we're gonna hear from Ben.
All right. First of all, I don't think it's fair to compare AEW to WWE's women's division because WWE's women's division is the only reason to watch, other than maybe the Big E singles run. There's not one single men's character storyline that I find interesting in WWE right now. The women is the only reason I watch. But I will say that AEW has dropped the ball as far as the women's division. Part of that has to do with how they handled Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose should have been a champion for way longer. She should have been she should have been unbeatable, the monster that nobody can touch. Also, they should have been doing a lot more outreach to the LGBTQ community to highlight her, to show like we're doing something that Vince McMahon would never, ever, ever do. You know, we put a trans woman as our champion. We recognize her as a woman, as they should. They dropped the ball on that. I'm going to say something that I know a lot of people are like, I don't like Sheeta. I don't think she's a good in-ring worker. But you say you can have a press conference with her. It's not the fact that she doesn't speak English well. It's the fact that she doesn't have character. Like, she's boring. Like, her character is boring. And so that is the problem when you bring in Thunder Rosa. I hope that there's some sort of deal with NWA that Thunder Rosa gets to win because Cody won the NWA title, so that Thunder Rosa becomes a champion, and then she can have a feud with Big Swole. Hopefully Big Swole is going to fight Britt Baker at some point. Also, Rebel should never be on TV again. Like that's, I mean, like, no, you're not, no, like your time has passed. But I think that the women's division needs more time, and we hear a lot about Tony Khan saying he's gonna sign new talent. Every new talent signing, they've got enough men. Every new talent signing should be a woman. They should be going out after, like, Impact's got some great women. See, you know, but I think in order to bring some of that talent over, you've got to prove to them that you're willing to push this division. Because if you're in Impact right now, why would you consider coming to AEW if you're only going to get 3 minutes? You're getting, 25 minutes or whatever. If you're, in WWE, why would you consider coming over? Because they're getting the time to put themselves out there, even if they're not even going for a title shot. You know what I mean? So they have got to, if they want to bring in the other women's talent, they need to prove that they're a place that fosters women's talent. Because otherwise, you'd be better off going to Shimmer than you would going to AEW, because at least there you're going to get to wrestle. They do need to promote the women more. They need to give them more time. There should be at least 2 women's matches on every Dynamite. There's no reason you can't do that. One can be 10 minutes and one can be 16 minutes. There's no reason not to do that. But you have to bring in more talent, and you have to push the right stars. Like, I'm sorry, Sheeta's not the right champion. She's just not. She's a great in-ring worker. I'm sorry, Todd. She's a great in-ring worker, but she's boring. She is. And she just is. And so, and I know everybody doesn't like that, but that's just the way I see it. And so when she's on, like, I wouldn't mind flipping the channel. You know what I mean? And as far as the ratings is concerned, though, that's a dumb argument, because that's what WWE used to use as an argument, saying ratings are going to drop when we put the women on, or ratings do drop, until they started actually doing it, giving them time, giving them good women's matches, and then people are like, oh, wait, these are good matches, so we are going to watch it. You know what I mean? Instead of, promoting, if you're going to give a 5-minute match, people aren't going to pay attention. If you don't have any character build-up, people aren't going to, mention it. Maybe Sheeta's problem is just that they just haven't built her character. Because honestly, what is Sheeta's character? She's the champion, and that's it. Like, she doesn't have a character, really. Like, if they spent some time building up her character, I'd be more interested. But they didn't. they built up Nyla Rose's character. They've built up Swole's character some. They were building something for Kong before she got hurt. But without a character, why should I care? So Jack took the timer on me, so I'm going to stop talking now.
Timer doesn't mean you have to stop. It's just letting you know. We're trying to give everybody 5 minutes for this one because I know that this one's a really big issue with AEW. But we'll get back to everybody so that everybody could get some points in. But right now, let's give the floor to Brainy Swole.
First of all, I just want to say how happy it makes me to hear men saying the same things that Maria and I have been saying about the women's division, because sometimes it feels like so many, at least on Twitter, which I know Twitter is a terrible place, but I see someone will make a tweet saying, they need to improve the women's division. They need to do more with the women's division. And then you get all these comments that make it seem like most male AEW fans don't want a women's division. All they want is the bikini girls on the pay-per-views, or the dancing girls that they had on Raw Underground. And see, I fell in love with women's wrestling in the early 90s on WWF as it was then. Sensational Sherry and Luna Vachon had a little feud. I think it started over Shawn Michaels. But it was my first experience of, oh my gosh, women do this too. They can do this amazing thing that I love to watch. And I want, even and I was a kid growing up, and I want more of this. I want to see more of it. And we got a little bit of that when they brought back the women's title with Alundra Blaze or Medusa. But it was never really taken seriously. It was just kind of it was a sideshow. And then the Attitude Era started, and it was women being objectified and bra and panties and mud wrestling and all of this other stuff. And that really turned me off. And that's when I stopped watching, because I was like, I do not want to see women disrespected that way. And I stayed away for a very long time. I came back about 4 years ago, and to see the four horsewomen, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha, and Bayley, starting to becoming taken seriously, actually having real matches, having real characters, was just like, wow. And that's what brought me back. And, I just really, I heard and I learned about, the Give Divas a Chance and the long road that it took to get to where they are now. But, I thought with this brand new shiny company, we weren't going to have to go through Give the Women a Chance again. I mean, am I going to have to wait another 20 years for the women to main event a pay-per-view? Am I going to be a great aunt by the time that happens? That shouldn't be, because they have had the playbook as to what not to do, how not to book the women, how, to take women seriously, because there is an audience for it, but you have to develop them like you develop all of your talent and all of your storylines. And here's the first mistake that AEW made, and it was it was right at the very beginning. And I'll preface this by saying I also love AEW. I am not bashing on them. I watch them every week, and they are as good as WWE and Impact. In some ways, I think they are superior. Their women's division is subpar. And here is the first mistake they made at the very beginning. They signed a crown jewel in Chris Jericho. Everybody all over the world knows who Chris Jericho is, whether you watch New Japan, whether you watch WCW, whether you watch WWE, you know who this man is. You know what he can do. You know what you're going to get with him. Why wasn't there a crown jewel for the women to start off with? A big name to to say, here's who we're going to build our division around. You know, that was the first mistake. Because, you know, oh, well, we're going to do this. We're going to create this, you know. And in a year, who is the really big female star in AEW? You know, who is the quote unquote face of the division? Who is, you know, they don't have anyone big. So, okay, build up the talent that you have, make your own stars. You know, they say, oh, they're all too green. Don't put the women on Dynamite. They're all too green. Put them on Dark. Put them on YouTube. If they had one woman who was a veteran, who's been doing this forever, look at Ivelisse. When during the tag team tournament, Veda Scott was talking about how she has 17 years of experience in the ring. 17 years. She's not green. You can build a division around her where she walks in and says, "This is my division." Deonna Purrazzo was not green. They could have signed her. There was a Sports Illustrated article this week highlighting her upcoming defense against title defense against Jordynne Grace. And this is almost a direct quote from that article saying that AEW, you know, she went to Impact. AEW would have been a good fit too, but no serious interest was showed. And Impact skyrocketed Deonna Purrazzo to the top of the women's division. And they just had that nail-biting Iron Woman match where down to the last second, I didn't know if there was going to be a title change or not. She could have walked into AEW and said, I don't care who your champion is. I'm Deonna Purrazzo. I'm the Virtuosa. This is my division, and I'm going to be the woman. They could have done that, but they didn't. They missed that chance. They could have had Kylie Rae. They probably could have had a lot of other awesome women that they could have built the division around and then grow the quote unquote green talent up to be up to her level. They haven't done that for whatever reason. And it makes me so angry because I love the women of AEW. I love all of them. I love seeing them work. I was in the heel Zoom last night. I did drink that Kool-Aid. And we got a good question and answer session with Big Swole. I already loved Big Swole. I thought she was awesome. After listening to her speak and talk about her experiences and her passion, I was like, I love this woman so much. And all of us were saying in the chat, can Big Swole adopt me, please? So that's why I'm calling myself Brainy Swole, is because I want to be part of the Swole family. I just absolutely love her. And I just want all the best for her. And I want all of the best. I want the respect. I want the success. I want the happiness for these women. They're not getting it. They're not getting the respect. I mean, you know, the women's upcoming title was signed basically in a bathroom. A freaking bathroom. They never would have done that to Kenny. They never would have done that to Cody. They never would have done that to Jericho. They never would have done that to Moxley. It was so disrespectful, and it made me very angry. It really made me very angry because Sheeta deserved better. Thunder Rosa deserved better. All of our women deserve better. And I don't feel like this is, and I keep hearing, have patience, have patience.
the changes that need to be made don't need time. They just need effort. I feel like it's just like somebody care about how these women look when they have to go out and do 3 minutes of almost nobody can have a good wrestling match in 3 minutes.
No, it's impossible.
They went out there and they were set up to fail.
Yep.
And that made me angry too.
We'll get back to you so that so we could give All Elite Kyle a chance to speak on it. But you bring up a lot of good points, and your passion is coming through it, and we could feel the love you have for the division and how much you want the change. So just keep that thought, and we'll get right back to you.
All right. Everybody pretty much nailed all the big points. To basically sum up where the women's division is now, it's pretty much become an ongoing joke to screenshot a timer when the women's matches start and post it to Twitter on how long the match is. And like so far, there's been like 3 minutes, and like that's just absolutely ridiculous. I think what started, I think one of the main problems is Kylie Ray was pretty much set to be the face of the women's division, and when she left, they had to just change stuff up. And also the Nightmare, crap, I forgot what the name of the Nightmare Collective group storyline. Whenever they finally just scrapped it, there was supposed to be a big payoff to that and everything, and I think that put a lot of stuff in there. That put a lot of stuff in the booking. But like everybody who keeps saying that everything needs time, and that it's like the pandemic has caused a lot of the problems. The pandemic has caused some problems, yes, but this has been a problem before the pandemic. For example, whenever at the end of last year, I did a bit of a passion project where I pretty much put stats on everything in AEW, and out of 147 total matches from the start of AEW, from Double or Nothing to the last Dynamite of December, between Dynamite and Dark, there was 147 total matches. 35 were women matches. But and like that's just absolutely ridiculous. And what everybody's been saying, another big point is there's no excuse for match cards to be put out and the women's match doesn't even get announced either. There's been times where it didn't even get announced at all. It was shown on the show as soon as it started. But like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be promoting these women's matches. And like, I think what Sammy said, we should be doing at least 2 women's matches on Dynamite. Like that should just be a mandatory thing right there. And there's no reason, even on Dark, even if you should put more women's matches on Dark. There's been times where there's been like 11 to 12 matches on Dark, and there's been like 1 women's match, if that. Like, there's no excuse for that. Another point that like, a lot of people, I think people kind of forgot about was, I forgot what rally it was, but one of the beginning rallies, AEW said that whatever title is on the card would be the main event because all the titles mattered. And from the start of the AEW, that was bullshit because the women's championship was not the main event of the first Dynamite, and that was the only championship on the card. But like I think like a lot of the issues is the booking's a main issue. Kenny Omega runs the division, but I mean I think they should bring maybe somebody like Peta Scott or somebody like that to come in and help them as like a consultant for the division, somebody who knows how to book women or something. And I think they also need to sign more women. Like for example, from Dark, it would be amazing if they signed Danny Jordan. She's been a huge fan favorite, and I think she'd be a great a great person to add. But I think everybody else pretty much like summed up all the other points. And to close this, yeah, the women's division is absolute trash, and it needs to be better.
No, yeah. Everybody brought up really good points. I did a statistic look of it. And I think I published it on August 6th, and I've been taking the screenshots of my phone every time a match starts, and I tweet out "time to get your timers out." Because when I did this paper, I saw that out of the 44 Dynamites since then, like I haven't counted the new ones since August 6th. They've only had 16. It was 16 women's matches, I believe, and out of the 88 hours, it was only like 5 hours were given to them. I'm like kind of like trying to paraphrase here. I know we went at it in the All Elite Friends where we broke it down some more, and like half of their matches were 6 minutes or under.
Yeah.
Well, from the beginning, when Riho was there, she was clearly over 2 hours worth of screen time just on her alone.
Well, it was just Riho. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, but if you put everything in, even with Sheeta now, she still carries most of the weight, and she hasn't even been there for the last 5 months. Like that's the tragedy in it.
Yeah.
For me, the tragedy is that Cody, during one of his numerous TNT title interviews, he was talking about matches on Dynamite, and he goes, "Bringing on Dynamite it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be on Dynamite." And I'm like, okay, I'll give you half credit. It is good to be on Dynamite, but it's another thing when you're only on for like a few minutes. Because is it really a privilege when I get to see Sheeta, who, yes, for all you fans out there, I am okay after that shock and heart attack that Ben almost gave me. Is it really a privilege to Sheeta? Exactly. That's
that was
right.
Ben. That was Ben right there.
Bring it on. Bring it on. I got Baby Yoda. Anyway, is it really a privilege to see Sheeta, who I really do dig, go out there and do a 3-minute match against a person I've never met before on Dynamite? No. Is it really a privilege for Big Swole to go do that 2-on-1 handicap match that we all knew she was going to win? It wasn't exactly that exciting. No.
That handicap match, like, sorry to interrupt you, but that handicap match hurt Penelope Ford. It made Penelope Ford, who she was a number one contender not so long ago. After this match, she looked so weak. Like, and instead of her elevating Swole, it's like Rebel brought Penelope Ford's stock down. Like, I can't.
And don't forget Abaddon. Abaddon had the privilege of coming out and squashing Anna Jay, which, yes, we get it. It set up the Dark Order storyline. But what happened to Abaddon? She went to Dark.
Yes.
So whose privilege is it to be on Dynamite exactly? Who?
You know, I want to add on to, what you mentioned earlier, Cody's TNT challenge. This is what Sheeta should be doing.
Yes.
She said in a freaking promo that she will defend it against anybody. And I mean anybody who wants to come to AEW and challenge her. We got Thunder Rosa already. This is what she should have been doing this entire time. And dear AEW, as fans, we love you. We love what you do. Remind us why we care. And this is what for WWE. WWE has simply handed you a playbook. Look at their mistakes. Decades of the women being underground and an afterthought for decades. And then all it took is one hashtag for you to change everything. This is the year 2020, and it should not be happening. AEW should have been capitalizing on that women's division from the very beginning. It has been an issue from the very, very beginning. And look at matches like Riho and Chris Statlander, one of the worst matches in AEW history. You also got that like 8-minute match between Statlander and Rose at Revolution, and you also got like one women's match at Full Gear. It's a big issue. That's when if you have 35 women's matches from the first Double or Nothing, like Kyle said, all the way to the last Dynamite. That's a big
well, like if you look at it statistic-wise, it's 50 minutes and 43 minutes for dark match with Riho. That was the Fight for the Fallen match, the pre-match. If you guys remember, there was like a 3-way or 4-way. That was 15 minutes and 43 seconds. So that was actually a dark. It was probably the pre-show match. The longest match Riho actually had not even by herself in AEW was the intergender match. That was a dark match with Kenny.
Yes.
The longest women's match to actually be highlighted on a card in May event was Nyla versus Sheeta which ran like Kyle said, I think before, it was like 16 minutes. It was a little bit lower than Kenny's and Rito's. It was like 16:30. Theirs was almost 17 minutes. But those were the longest matches so far in AEW.
Also,
and this is going back to the Brandy's announcement. I want to feel included, then make the women feel included. Look at what Impact is doing. Look at what NXT is doing. Their divisions have been around for years, and they've built it up tremendously. And look at all these women from Impact. You want these people to look at AEW and go like, wow, that's a cool place to be. I want to be there. Don't be the company that just tells the people, never mind, I'm never going to go here because I'm going to get 3 minutes worth of TV time. And then these people are going to be posting screenshots of timers of my match on Dynamite. 3 freaking minutes of TV time. And that goes for the tag match. Penelope Ford's stock has diminished heavily, and therefore they never capitalized on Penelope Ford after her match with Hikaru Shida at Fyter Fest. It has demolished Ford stock tremendously.
She is so underrated.
Rebel in there. You have Rebel in there, all right? Out of all people, Rebel. And it's just not even worth the time. And, we don't even know if Britt Baker versus Big Swole is even going to happen at All Out. It's just, it's
no one knows. No.
And this is what Jackie says right here is what we've been saying the whole time. If there was never a bar established, we would have nothing to base our opinions off of. But if you present something, we have to be able to criticize.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let Caro talk.
Yeah. So, Sammy basically touched on this before, but let's say hypothetically, I'm a woman in the indies and I'm looking to jump into one of the main promotions. I basically have 3 choices. I can either go to NXT, I can go to Impact, or I can go to AEW. The one I'm not going to pick is AEW, and I hate that I have to say that, but it's just because of just how they've been building their women and how they haven't been sticking to including them into major storylines and character development. I'm not going to want to go to AEW. I want to go to NXT, or I want to go to Impact, where I know that I'll be respected more in terms of what I can do in the ring and what I can bring to the table for mainstream professional wrestling. And it sucks that I have to say that, but it's true,
That's what AEW is doing.
And besides, when you're in AEW, you're going to have the fear of people posting screenshots of their timers for all of your matches on Dynamite, 3 minutes worth, and that's going to embarrass you. And this is what AEW is doing. They are embarrassing this women's division. They are completely embarrassing it. And it frustrates me because I've seen what WWE is doing for their women. They've built this division around the 4 horsemen, and that changed everything for them. AEW shouldn't be going through the same process. There are female fans here, AEW. There are female fans who watch your product, and they want to see the women get a chance too. They want that. AEW heels is not going to do anything because they're not actually wrestling. You're just going to sit there and talk to them, and it's ridiculous. It's stupid. And besides, a little promotion is not going to hurt. I've stated this several times. Little promotion will not hurt. 2 matches every week and just have 1 promo, which is your big story. And then you have the other match, which is a little bit of a storyline in progress. And just take all that time to build up, to a big pay-per-view event. For example, this Thunder Rosa thing should have happened weeks ago. You could have started building it from there.
Yeah.
I agree.
You could have.
I agree.
And it's just, and it frustrates me because you just need, you need, and I know I've said this several times, but at the beginning, Britt Baker was one of your first signees, and she promised that this division is going to be must-see. Look where it is now. I'm not going to be sitting here 10 years from now wondering, is this division ever going to get better? And I'm going to go look at, I don't know. Some of y'all might be like 50 or 40. I don't know. And you're going to hear the same thing. It's going to get better. And if it's like this 10 years from now, no, it won't. It's just how it goes. And besides, look at what Impact.
Sammy.
Go ahead, Brainy.
Pass the mic.
Pass the mic to Brainy.
We're gonna pass the mic.
Yeah, we're passing the mic.
Brainy, go ahead.
I totally agree. It's just, why do we have to climb Mount Everest again? Why do we have to still be shouting through our megaphones that women's wrestling matters? That all we are asking for is an even playing field. I'll give you a good example. A few weeks ago, we had the tag team
Association night, there was at the time no segment involved. I think they said, oh, Swole and Britt might be doing a little bit. I'm like, I want women's wrestling. And so I told Maria, you know what? I'm going to be watching NXT Live this week. And I'm going to record Dynamite and I'll watch it later. Because I know that it's going to be a good show. I know there's going to be great matches. But if I'm not going to get any women's wrestling, I'm going to turn on to NXT, where I know I'm going to get a guaranteed 2 women's matches every week. And so I did. I watched NXT Live, and I got my women's wrestling, and I was happy on Wednesday night. And then later on, I watched.
Do you remember we even talked about the fact that they didn't even interview anybody? They could have interviewed like a female talent saying what was your best tag team moment in wrestling, because it was just appreciation. They talked about Matt Hardy. They could have had a female be like, oh, remember that one time when the Hardys did this?
And this is at a time where you're promoting on YouTube that women are doing tag teams. You know, get a couple of those tag teams if they're in town, and you know, have a match. Why not have a women's tag team match on that show? Why instead of having another little 3-minute token match? I don't, and what it doesn't feel like it's rocket science to me. It doesn't. So I understand why it's so difficult for them. I really
This isn't one thing I want anybody who's watching want to know. This isn't a knock on the AEW women's. This is on the actual people who are booking the AEW show. They're not spotlighting women the way that it should be. And when we talk about comparisons to WWE, obviously WWE has a stacked roster, like with women as well as men. This is about the time that you invest in your women. So by putting them on AEW, Dynamite is investing time in the women that you have. And this is pre-pandemic. I'm gonna show you an example. Pre-pandemic, there was a fatal 4-way match between Shida, Statlander, Penelope Ford, and Riho, who's arguably 4 out of the 5 biggest women's wrestlers AEW has. A fatal 4-way match. They got 5 minutes and 49 seconds bell to bell. And then a match between, this whole match was completely tag matches. Jurassic Express versus Butcher and Blade, 11 minutes, 22 seconds. Inner Circle versus Elite, 16 minutes, 26 seconds. Lucha Bros versus Best Friends, 14 minutes. If you look at AEW All Out, they're adding a men's tag team match that we don't know who's even wrestling, that the winner of the match is the winner of a match on Dynamite. I can't remember. I think it's Private Party and SCU versus Young Bucks and Jurassic Express. Whoever is the winning 2 teams will face each other All Out. Why do we need that? Why do we need that on All Out? Exactly. This is a last minute match. Toss that match away. Put that time into Thunder Rosa versus Shida. It's about how you invest time in your women. That's what, at the end of the day, this is what we're asking. Based going back 5 years when WWE had their women's revolution, what fans want. Invest the time into your women, and that's it. And then also with this whole women's tag team deadly draw, sign some of these women. Eva Lise, Diamante, Rachel Ellering, sign Danny Jordan, sign Skylar Moore, sign Kenzie Page.
Oh man,
that will easily put an influx of women into your division, and you then use them.
Yeah. So, one of the things with the women's division though is that I know Kenny gets a lot of the heat. Kenny was booking in the beginning, but then there was a disagreement with the way they wanted the direction. The reason why the AEW women's belt is the way it is because Kenny wanted it to be more Joshi style, which means more hard hitting, more Japanese style, more sports orientated. And an executive, a branding officer, wanted it to be sports entertainment, wanted to put the thing being more like WWE. That's why the Nightmare Collective was born, and that's why they put so much time on the Nightmare Collective.
And it failed.
Yeah,
And it failed horribly. And
but Brandy didn't make that.
Yeah.
The Nightmare Collective was Awesome Kong's idea.
This is true.
Oh yeah.
Well, did not Nightmare Collective fail though? Because Kong.
Well,
got hurt, though?
Kong
I mean,
never.
like, that's
Kong
not
said
it.
from the beginning she didn't want the championship belt, and they were going to put the
Yeah.
championship belt on her because
You
she
know-
was still recording Glow.
Yeah, you know, Kong actually wanted to she's on a break right now. She's been filming Glow, and you know, she even said from the beginning, you're right, Jack. She didn't want the belt. She's there to help the women's division, and she's been away. And besides, signs of consultants, Medusa is there. And besides,
Yeah.
I've been
Medusa,
saying
Jason.
this for a while.
Yeah.
They need
And-
they need a veteran. They need a veteran in that division.
John
You know who
Veda.
I would go after? You know what? Once her deal is up in December, I'm gonna attempt to throw everything at Mickey James. That's who I would go
That
for
would be
to
huge.
have that veteran in the
There-
division.
There's
This-
somebody out there
this-
that is a legend. Jazz.
Jazz.
Yeah.
Good too.
Jazz was good.
Jazz,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey Ben, you wanted to say something, right? Ben?
Well, all I was saying is that I have no idea why at some point we didn't get a Kong Nyla Rose match. Like, I don't care if it's for a title or whatever. Like, that should have been a match that we got at some point.
I agree.
That would have built Nyla.
Yeah, like, and Kong could have put Nyla over, but again, like I said, they botched. In my opinion, they botched Nyla completely. They did not promote her the way she should have been promoted. And
There's still time.
There is. They can still. I don't know if Vicky Guerrero's the way to do it.
It's a good start, I guess.
It's possible.
Because her promos were not the best, so Vicky
Her
will help.
promos aren't the best. So if she can be the Heyman to Nyla, but Nyla needs to be like the unstoppable force in the division. That then the hero, you build up the hero, whether it's Swole, whether it's Statlander, whoever it is, that has to climb that mountain. But you have to tell that story. You can't do it in 3 minutes, and you need to give time to build it, and it takes time. Also, saw somebody in the chat say that Melina should be part of it. I couldn't disagree more.
You either like Melina or you don't. I've always felt that way. You either like her or you
I
don't.
feel like Melina is much more Attitude Era than she is Women's Revolution Era. And
I get what you're trying to
because of the
say.
way, that's because that's the way the WWE portrayed her. Melina actually has talent, but because of WWE at the time, that's the way they
to be fair, I
portrayed
have
her.
not seen her work outside of WWE. So if
You know,
that's
one of the
the
things
case-
is with Nyla, I was gonna say, like, you still have time. Nyla from the beginning should have been the AEW Women's Champion. Nyla could have been their version of what Awesome Kong was in TNA, because Awesome Kong and Gail Kim carried the Knockouts division for a while, and that's what they could have done. But even now, if you say, okay, let's reboot this with Vicky Guerrero, well, Nyla Rose on July 2nd defeated Kenzie Page and Kylie King at Fyter Fest the second day. She's had 2 matches since then, and one was the Tag Team Cup tournament, and the other one was on August 13th. So you're creating a storyline with Nyla Rose, and now you've already just stopped that momentum.
Also,
and that's the problem is that the same thing they're doing with some of the men, they're doing with women. You gave Nyla Rose a storyline with Vicky Guerrero. Why did we stop momentum? You could put her on Dark, even just on Dark, and have her eat up women to say we're gonna build her up again as an unstoppable force, and eventually she's gonna either let's say Full Gear, for example, she's gonna go and avenge her loss against Shida for the title.
Yeah.
Can
I
I
Kyle,
ask-
look.
Why
Kyle was going to say something real quick.
To add to the argument that this has been a problem before the pandemic, I've got quite a few examples, but I want to point out what somebody just said in the chat. It's right in front of your face. Look at the size of the women's belt compared to the other belts. I mean, I don't understand why it's so small.
It's comparable to the NWA belt, though.
Yeah, Thunder Rose is
That's true.
small.
but it just looks, really small
Yeah.
on certain people. But like y'all were saying, Full Gear had one women's match, and see, here's there's two bad things that happened there. There was a major feud between B. Priestley and Britt Baker,
Yeah.
and that match got put on the pre-show. Okay, and then Himi Sakura and Rio fought at Full Gear, and we didn't even know all the backstory for that match
Yeah.
until Kenny Omega had to tweet out the whole backstory and stuff on Twitter. And they even had a road to Full Gear that they could have put that out on, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Nope. Yep.
Would have made
But-
such a great promo.
So many miss marks. But yeah, guys, so we're gonna close this up. We're gonna close it up by basically we'll just throw out one of those like, would you rather type things. So if you had a chance to change something in AEW right now, what would it be? Why? Keep it real short. Something that you wish that you could actually just maybe talk to Tony Khan about and be like, hey, I really rather you have do this right now. For me, it's definitely the women's division. And I think it's basically the reason why I would say that is if he listens to a lot of the fans, this is something that we do want. Having more minority women on the roster is very important. Diversity is important. Seeing yourself in somebody is very important, as we can see. Just to bring it up with the passing of somebody that was huge in the Marvel universe. I can't even I don't even want to talk about it, but seeing him gave little kids that person, that image, that's something to look forward to. And it's something as simple as wrestling is the same exact thing. Being able to see Thunder Rosa as a small Hispanic girl. It's like, oh my gosh, she's small, she's not huge, but she can totally kick ass. You know what I mean? Representation. And that's all I want to say, because the men's division is on fire. The tag team division is on fire. The TNT title's on fire. We just really need to see more women's wrestling. If he gives it a chance, even though it might falter just a little bit in the beginning, if he just pulls on through and don't look at the stupid demos, don't look at the falling of the ratings, just listen to the fans and not the ones speaking the loudest that you always see with the positivity, but look at the constructive criticism, not all the trolls, but the constructive and why they're saying these things. Where is it coming from? And once again, like we all have said here, we are AEW supporters. This all comes from a place of love. And it's constructive criticism that we want to see. And we hope that they actually, I don't know if they'll hear this or see this, but it'd be really nice to trickle down the pipeline, or maybe do this again with you guys, as the 1 year mark happens for Dynamite. So we can come back to see if anything changed in the next 2 months, which is another chance for them to change. That's a lot of weeks. So we will see. Jack, do you want to take away really quick?
No, I think that AEW, when it first came out, I think it drew us all in because we were tired of what we were seeing in WWE. And that's the stereotypes that were always being played on WWE. As a Hispanic, I grew up watching WWE, and either we were luchadors or we were the butt of the joke. So it kind of hurts that after I invested all these hopes and all these things behind a company, they are doing the same thing. Santana and Ortiz are being used as gangbanger stereotypes. We have two of the biggest stars from Mexico in Lucha Brothers being thrown to the side. There's no real representation of Hispanics in the women's division. It would be great to see Diamante and Ivelisse signed. I'm glad Tay Conti looks like she might be signed. We can't forget about Brazil. I know people always forget about Brazil when we talk about Latino America. But it's just, don't fall down that line. Don't go down the WCW route. Don't try to be WWE. We came to you guys because you guys promised us an alternative. Don't be WWE light. So next would be Sammy. I think it was the way we had the lineup.
Okay. Closing remarks here. Self-explanatory here. The one thing you have to fix is the women's division. And, once we're done here, we might as well post the whole thing on Twitter, and hopefully Tony Khan sees it, because as fans of AEW, we want this division to be one of the most must-see things on Dynamite. Going off what Jack said, this is why AEW came to us. We're tired of seeing the same thing in WWE, and they promised us that they will be different, and they will listen to fans, and they do listen to fans, and they got to do this now with the women's division. And
this is coming from a fan who has fully invested his time into AEW. And one of the biggest problems I see is the women's division. It's ridiculous how people are timing on their stopwatches on their phones and then posted it on Twitter like, oh, AEW this week, their women's match was 3 minutes long, and Penelope Ford's stock has crashed tremendously.
And it's ridiculous to see because, certainly because the talent is there. All right. The talent is there. It's just the booking that is messed up. The women aren't getting enough time on Dynamite. They're being promoted very little. And it's terrifying because when you look at when you look at the fans here, you have AEW heels for a reason for the female fans. Make them feel included. Like, I mean, talking to the performance isn't going to do anything because they're not on TV. Because all they feel right now is an afterthought. And it makes me frustrated, makes us all frustrated because it should be one of the biggest things about AEW right now. Sheeta should be at least in the top 3 biggest stars AEW has right now because of how good she is. And same with Nyla Rose. I mean, her reign was booked badly because of the pandemic and the fact that they didn't even build her up as that monster properly and stuff like that. But in the end, I mean, we'll come back to this eventually, but hopefully in 2 months' time, things will be better. And if they're not, I will go all out like I did here. And hopefully for the people who are tuning in from home, this is a pipe bomb, all right, on AEW's women's division. And this is addressing all the problems they have right now. And it's constructive criticism. This is not actual criticism. I'm not an anti-AEW fan or something like that, like the people you see on Twitter, but certainly not a stan either. I'm not like, but we're not going to talk about that. But anyway, we're done here, and do better with the women's division. Just do better with it. That's all I ask. And just everything else is fine. It's just the women's division that needs the build, and you just need to repair a few things. That's it. And just promote them. That's all I'm asking. And it'll be one of the biggest things. I guarantee you that. Just there you go.
Yeah, no, great points. I think next we have Todd.
Oh, hi there. I'm Todd, and this is an AEW comic I made. Oh, what's that? I can't actually get this to AEW. It's okay. You can just ask me on my Twitter for it. I'll send it to you for free. So shameless self-promotion, done. Now, for what I would fix, if I had to fix one thing, everyone's going to talk about the women's division more or less. So I'm going to talk about something that honestly is sticking in my craw, and I mentioned it earlier: time management. All right, I get it. You love your tag team matches, AEW. That's fine. But do you know how many main events have been less than 15 minutes? How many main events have been less than 10 minutes? Moxley Darby 2, 13 minutes ish. That was a title match. Sammy versus Matt for the tables match in the main event, less than 10. And like Kyle said, hey, that was partly because of other segments, but that's still a problem. Time management. And again, the women's matches, 10 to 15 minutes each and every night, unless it's a specified squash for a story purpose. And even then, do it rarely. Time management means so much. You do a great job with your first matches is usually 15 to 20 minutes at times, or your gauntlet match where you had 30, or your TNT title matches where you do 10 plus. We love that, but show that respect to the other matches, both men and women's, singles and tag teams. It helps and it makes a better product. Do we need to have 5 talking segments or 5 vignettes that really just cut into the time? No, we really don't. And you do some great things, like when you start matches with everybody already in the ring and you don't do the entrances, which takes easily 2 to 4 minutes depending on the song. That helps. Do better time management and your show will get better in both the men's, the women's, the singles, and the tag teams. That is a very simple request. I think it's something you can implement immediately, just like hiring me to make an AEW comic. I'm just saying.
Great promotion. So I think next we take it back to the royalty of Dynamite, the Duchess.
Oh, Tony. Tony, 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 Tony. Tony. I don't know where to start. But the reason why I started watching AEW was because I, like many of us have said before, we're getting really tired of what WWE was giving us. Granted that their women's division is probably the best thing about them in the past 10 years, and even since the Ruthless Aggression era, but I was tired of storylines becoming formulaic, character development stalling, people of color, Hispanics, Black people, like so many underrepresented minorities not getting the time of day in the spotlight. Sexualities being mocked with the whole Lana Liv Morgan storyline, because that still left a bad taste in my mouth. But anyway, like, and I'm so happy that we have an alternative. Believe me, it's fantastic. I love watching every week. But like many of us have said before, I just want the women's division to get better. I want more representation from LGBTQ plus identities, people of color, and other minorities. Time management, what Todd mentioned, like that's a thing. That's a thing a lot of people don't talk about. I think the time management in Dynamite is pretty shit, especially in the second hour. And like we're starting to get some focus away from the elite and starting to build up some of the talent that came from indies and other promotions. There's just so much they can do with AEW. No promotion is going to be perfect in their first year. Again, I'm happy that we even have this option in the first place, aside from WWE. I'm just hoping that they learn from their mistakes and basically knock it out of the ballpark for their second year. Like, again, they're not doing bad. They've been fantastic for a wrestling promotion that has created such a buzz in the industry and has been as successful as it has in the first year alone. Like, holy shit, that's amazing. Pardon my language, I'm sorry. But it's amazing how much they've accomplished in their first year. And like, again, they've made mistakes. They can rectify it in their second year. I just don't want us to sit here in 2021 and still talk about how the women's division is still awful, how minorities are still not represented. This is something they can absolutely capitalize on, and I would say that they should focus on those two things. And the third thing being timing for their second year.
And next we have Ben, who was the heel of the whole round table.
Heel. The heel of the round table. I'm gonna say what I want by the year 2 celebration, and I just want 3 things. I want a legit women's division that gets time and storylines and built. I want a Big Swole title run, and I want a Sunny Kiss TNT title run. That's all I want. That's what I think that in really building up those 2 black wrestlers that other companies really just do not build up, especially their black wrestlers. I think that's a point of contention. Like Maria said, with the passing of Chadwick, we understand that how important it was to see someone that looked like them as important or whatever, or as a hero. It's time for young black kids to stop seeing themselves as only people who can dance or be thugs, and that we can get real representation in wrestling. So those are the 3 things I want by next year. I think it's very possible to do.
I think, did we skip JR by accident?
Yeah, it's okay.
Shut up. You got him? Your mic's not on. There you go. All right.
I had to take off my glasses and my hat so everybody can see the seriousness of my face on this one. What I would tell Uncle Tony is this. I want you to be accountable to the standards that you created for yourself. We not just talking about diversity. You have diversity. You have members you have black wrestlers, you have Hispanic wrestlers, you have women, you have members of the LGBTQ community. Now we're asking for inclusion. We want you to include these individuals in major storylines on focal points. AEW caters to their hardcore audience, as you can see based on BTE storylines being put into AEW. As you can see that with some of the matches they have is based on their hardcore demographics. That's what they have, is their hardcore demographics. Eventually, would they build to a bigger audience? Potentially. But right now, the hardcore audience that you're catering to is asking for inclusion. We want more time for women to be placed on the AEW Dynamite, not just Dark. Also on AEW pay-per-views. We would like you to sign additional women, such as Ivelisse and Diamante and Skylar Moore and Kenzie Page. And even I know the men's roster is big, but we would love to see Sean Dean or Will Hobbs or Pineapple Pete come back. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is that we want to see these individuals get an opportunity because they've earned that opportunity. The men and women that you have that are of diverse populations are amazing and should be given that opportunity on TNT, as well as hold championships. In addition to that is a sense of direction. And I know the pandemic has caused direction to be very difficult at this time. But at the same time, though, I think it's time to get back on track because we don't know when things are going to fully open. So let's get back on track. Let's see what's going on. And let's put these men and women at the forefront because that's what we're asking for. And that's all I have to say about that.
I was speaking before. I just wanted to apologize, Professor. Like all the squares keep moving around, so I apologize for skipping you. So next
Get
we
an F as a moderator.
next up we have Brainy Swole.
I agree with what everyone else has been saying. Y'all know how by now how I feel about the women's division. I want more and I want better for them. I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. I want the women's division to be an attractive division that good talent, great talent want to come to. I want to be able to say that AEW is now the superior brand because look at all of this great talent they have in all of their divisions. Look at all of the diverse talent that they have in all of their divisions. You know, that's what I want, and that's what we were promised. And so just give us what you promised. That's all I really want.
And last but not least, All Elite Kyle.
Simply pretty much what everyone else has been saying. This whole everybody in this roundtable has pretty much hit every point, and it's just an amazing group. I've really enjoyed listening to. Pretty much just go back and look and go back to the original 2 rallies before Double or Nothing started, and remember what you told the fans, and look at the company now and ask yourself if you're giving us what you promised us, because you're not. You're almost there, but there's a lot of improvement, and it mostly relies in the women's division, which is awful, and the storylines and the booking and hiring of talent of color. And I think you can start with actually promoting women's matches on when Dynamite cards are announced. A women's card should be promoted as well, and usually it's not, and that should change. We should be getting at least 2 women's matches a week on Dynamite, and 2 or 3 on Dark if if there's a big card, and I want to see people of color as champions, and more people of color being hired in both divisions, and just pretty much just giving us what we were promised at the beginning. And if you need any ideas on it, just listen to this this discussion, because everybody hit everything perfectly, and that's really all I gotta say.
All right. Yeah, thank you to everybody. You guys were amazing. I don't know. I was a little worried. I was scared everybody wasn't going to get a chance to talk. Yeah, we went long, but I don't think anybody suffered through anything. We all got a chance to speak. Thank you guys so much for coming out and doing this with us tonight. This will be playing back on our YouTube channel just shortly. It's on Facebook, it's on Twitch. We'll be putting everybody's handles and work and links to all the things they do that are amazing in the description box below the YouTube. But please check out these people, check out their handles. Everybody is genuinely great individuals in this chat right now. Thank everybody who is watching us. Yeah, we hope to do this real soon. If you guys want it, we'll bring it back. So